Um, Alright, I'm just gonna talk about this for a second. I don't know if we'll read all of this. I'm probably gonna read all of this. It's just gonna be a really boring non-gaming stream for a little bit. There, at some point in time, like, I don't know when this changed, but it was recent. Probably, I would say pretty recent, over the last 10 to 15 years. Um, if somebody does something that you don't like, or like, then you either don't listen to it, or if it's super extreme, then maybe you don't support that person anymore. I don't like this idea that every single person has to have the exact same set of beliefs as you, otherwise that person has to be fucking eliminated from society. I feel like that's a really fucked up line of thinking, like super fucked up. Um, if I had like a dentist or a family practitioner or something, um, and he was, and let's say he held the belief that let's say that he held the belief that gaming was something that if you did it, you're just wasting your time playing video games, and that's all it is. Video games are a waste of time, and you shouldn't ever play them. You should do sports something instead, right? Personally, I would understand that he has that point of view, and I would disagree with it, but I probably wouldn't even stop going to him if he's like, yeah, I was like, yeah, because I'm a fucking adult, right? And at some point, or it used to be, people had different beliefs. Like it was just part of living together, especially in the United fucking States of America, which is one of the most least homogenous. There's an opposite word of homogenous. One of the least homogenous societies in the whole fucking world, right? Um, some people just have different beliefs than you, and part of being an adult is acknowledging that, well, this guy thinks some things that I definitely don't agree with, but that's okay. He has his beliefs, I have my beliefs. I can still function. I don't devolve into a fucking 4-year-old throwing a temper tantrum. We can even have transactions. I'll buy things from him and whatever, right? Just because I purchase something from him or, subscribe to a service or something doesn't mean that I subscribe to the logical extremities of every single idea that he has, right? Like, that used to be common sense. But it doesn't seem to work that way anymore. Like, you go to Dr. Johnson? Like, yeah, I do. Yeah, he's a cool doctor, whatever. He's a good doctor. Are you sure? So you hate niggers. What? What are you talking about? Well, he is against affirmative action in colleges. Okay, I didn't even know that, but sure, even if he is against, so you're supporting somebody who's against affirmative action in colleges. So they hate black. First of all, I don't even think they hate black people. Now I hate black people just because I go to the fucking doctor because like what? Like it seems like that like those are the steps that we're taking. Like that's insane. Like that's insanity. That's actual insanity. That now any single time you associate with somebody, now you also subscribe to the logical extremes of any idea that they have. That's absolutely fucking crazy. Like it's not good, it's not healthy. That's insanity. Like is that a straw man? No, it's autism. It's not autism. It's this idea that if you don't adhere to a certain set of principles.
I hated myself, Destiny. I can't even speak out about how fucking ignorant and animistic the Negroid race is her. I can't extol the supremacy of the white man with pride. But I say these views, everyone just fucking hates me, it's fucked.
Like, do you actually have conversations like that? It's what's happening now in like the general like idea, the whole social justice thing, that whole social justice movement on Reddit, and that's kind of bleeding, well, coming from Tumblr, coming from something awful that bleeds into Twitter and all these big social media things, like all of these people, like the Black Lives Matter movement, like all of these people are doing this thing where if you have a person who doesn't even have to be extremist, right? I could use myself. I don't like to use myself as a first example because it seems like I'm too emotionally invested. But like, I feel like the dentist guy is a good idea, or is a good thing, right? So, for me personally, I don't hunt, and I probably would never hunt because that's not entertaining to me. And personally, I don't even see how that could ever be entertaining. I guess maybe the idea of setting up like a stand and waiting for deers or whatever is fine, whatever. I don't think it's very sporting to shoot animals with guns. Now, if you want to hunt with like a knife or something, then that sounds like fucking, that's some baller ass shit, right? If you want to take a fucking blade out and go fucking kill some fucking animals, that would probably be something to brag about. But like if you shoot something with a rifle, personally, I don't see it. If somebody wants to brag about, hunting, like, I wouldn't really give a fuck. Like, okay, you shot a lion or a deer or whatever. I mean, I guess it's cool. Like, good job. I mean, I guess. Like, I can shoot targets at a range. Could I go stand somewhere long enough in the forest and, shoot a deer? Maybe not. Maybe I don't have the patience for it, right? But if somebody does it, it seems like now it's not enough that we can live together and have different beliefs. Now it's like, if somebody has a belief that's different than me, even if that belief isn't super offensive, right? Because no longer are we talking about, because we've gone from talking about people that support rape to people that say words that in some context might perpetuate maybe rape culture in some institutions in some parts of the world. And now those people are called rapists. And it's like, wait, what? Like, 10 years ago, what is a rapist? A rapist is a man that fucking, fucking waits in a fucking alley, drugs a girl, fucking violates somebody physical forces usually. Like, that's a fucking rapist. Nowadays, what is a rapist? Well, a rapist, some guy that says sexual jokes on Twitter, that disparages women, you're perpetuating rape culture. You're pretty much a rapist. Like, the fuck? Like, how did we get that far? Like, it's insane. That's insane. So now everybody that makes a rape joke is a rapist, which is insane, right? Or maybe you say faggot a lot, right? I try not to anymore. I still let it slip sometimes, right? Maybe you say faggot. Well, so what is a person that says faggot, right? In a rational world, if you say faggot, you're somebody that you've got bad word choice, right? And maybe some of the things that you do could contribute to homosexual people feeling bad, right? Or feeling disparaged against, right? Or it sets them off because they've heard it in negative, right? That's what somebody says, right? But that's not actually how people portray it now. If you say faggot, you are, you hate gay people, you are, fucking homophobic as shit, you're probably against gay rights, you're all these things, and it's like, that's not even true. We're not, like, when I see people having these conversations, it's kind of, I feel like I'm having a conversation with my mom. Every time I see a social justice warrior talk about shit like this, I feel like, okay, Mom, let's talk about how effective Obama's presidency has been. Let's talk about the Affordable Care Act. Oh, you mean Obamacare? Well, it's been pretty effective for him and his cronies because they've gotten their hands in all the doctors' pockets, and now they can push their death panels and kill innocent Americans and destroy businesses like Obama and all of his crony friends have been trying to destroy America. Fuck! What? Like, okay, so we can't even actually have a conversation on this, Mom, right? That's what we're saying? We can't actually have a real conversation on this, right? Because you're just gonna go there. There's no, you understand that, right? I can't have a real conversation with my mom about politics because she lives in an entirely fucking different universe. There's no real, we can never meet. And never shall the two worlds collide, right? It'll never ever happen. Can we have a reasonable discussion about anything? And I feel like the social justice warrior movement is like the same kind of thing. Like, man, that guy sure was a faggot. Like, why do you hate gay people? It's like, whoa, hold on. Well, that guy he probably doesn't hate gay people. There aren't really that many people left, at least in Western countries, that actually hate gay people. So why would you try to make the conversation about that? Like, why, like, do you want him to defend that he doesn't hate gay people? Because he probably doesn't. So what are we even talking about? Like, do you want to have a legitimate, like, I think that if I had a room full of 100 people and I wanted to have a conversation with them about not saying the word faggot, I think that I could have a better result out of that group of 100 people. I would put money on it. I would put any amount of money on it that I could convince more people not to say faggot than a social justice warrior can. I really think I do, because
I personally don't agree with stuff like homosexuality and abortion. And I don't go around acting like a dick to gay people. But if I were to express those opinions, that could end up in social suicide these days. Pretty fuck up.
Like, I feel like you can have legitimate conversations about the usages of words. Are social slurs, racial slurs acceptable? Are gendered insults, like, can you call somebody a bitch or a cunt or a faggot? Like, is that acceptable? Like, I think I could have a reasonable discussion with people about that. I could share some personal stories, and I could convince people that it's not that bad. Right? Or not that it's not bad. That they're not words that you should use, right? I feel like I could do that. But when you come out of the gates saying that everybody that ever has said the word faggot is homophobic, like at that point we're not even having real conversations anymore. Like what are we talking about at this point? Like are we just gonna jerk ourselves off in an echo chamber of like happiness and like where everybody that doesn't believe the exact same things as us, right? And the problem is people have taken this to the point to where if you don't agree with every single thing somebody says, now not only is it okay for you to personally boycott them, now you have this social obligation to destroy their life. That's fucking crazy. That's absolutely fucking insane. It's insanity. But it's become like the norm, where if somebody does something, not even does something, if somebody just has a belief that we don't approve of, now everything in his life has to be destroyed. That's insanity. Like, you should be able to live in a world. You should be able to live in a world where you can coexist with people that believe in different things. Like, is it really that hard? Let's talk about, like, I didn't even get into argument. I don't argue on Twitter anymore because I don't have room for it. If people want to argue verbally, then that's fine, but I'm not going to get into any more like Twitter arguments. 170 or 80 characters, 140 characters is not enough. It's very hard to argue against far-left ideologies. I don't think it is hard to argue about it. Well, no, you're right. It is hard to argue because the problem with far-left ideologies, I say far-left, I don't even like to associate this with left versus right. The problem with social justice warrior ideologies is that arguing against these is so fucking scary because if you aren't 100% mentally equipped to navigate that argument or to navigate the minefield, you can say one wrong thing and you're fucked, and you that clip, that soundbite gets taken out, and now you're fucked because you said the one. Like, so do you think that affirmative action should be allowed in schools? Well, I mean, not really. I don't think it's fair that you give like blacks a head start against equivalent white kids. Okay, well, what about all the years of slavery? Okay, well, I mean, yeah, that sucks and that needs to be amended. But I just don't think that colleges are. I just don't think it's right to give black people. I think that everybody should be on the same playing field. So you think that everybody's on the same playing field, even though there's been hard. Well, no. I mean, I don't think that. Like, you have to do like all this mental gymnastics. And if you say one wrong thing, that's like, okay, so you hate black people. Like, why not just fucking say it? So good job. You don't want affirmative action because you're a fucking white cis male. Of course you don't. And now you hate black people, so you're trying to deny them. Okay, so like, okay. Like, it's a mistake to even have the conversation. If you're not like a philosophy like PhD and you're ready to go into this argument with like the finesse of like a Harvard debate team, you're only setting yourself up for disaster. And it's so funny because like, it's gotten to the point to where, and remember on Shit Reddit says, like, where they even trip themselves up, where they say something, and then somebody's like, well, hold on, like, I don't think on Shit Reddit says you're not allowed to say moron anymore, because that's, like, an ableist insult, and people are always, like, tripping up, like, can we say this word? Can we say that? Are we allowed to say that? I don't know. Like, people are like, I don't even fucking know anymore, and it's like, holy shit. This happened where she was trying to shit on Trump for being rich, right? She was trying to shit on Trump for being rich and for hiring out people to do dirty work. And she fucked up.
Kick every Latino out of this country, then who is going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?
Oh, that's no.
In the sense that,
no.
You know what I mean?
In the sense that,
there's more jobs to be. They always
but they Latinos are not only the only people
I didn't mean
doing
it like that.
I
would never
not like that. I mean,
I'm not part of this argument with.
I think what you're saying is that Trump himself
You need to look out the
probably
window and
relies on a lot of these people that he's insulting. I think
Dank memes.
Kinda like arguing with women, right? Degree.
like it's crazy. This shit has gotten like out of control.
The
Like,
grand cuckening is upon us destiny. Soon we will all be wearing chastity belts on our mouths, and breathing has to be sent in for approval by the Federal Feminist World Order. I tried to buy a rope, but I got denied by them and got cucked for 2 minutes.
Like, the straw manning in this subreddit is so absolutely fucking crazy. I used to care about police murdering black people and getting away with it, but then 2 black people were rude to a politician, Alex. So now I just can't even anymore. Also, I lied about the first part. You got him. Oh, God. And the problem is that with the way that these people work, I say these people, but really I guess everybody has a tendency to do it. Like, I've said this before, guys. Oh, my God. I've said this before in the past, right? Some people don't give a fuck. The worst thing you can ever fucking do is, don't do this thing where you have a belief and you throw yourself in a fucking echo chamber where every single person believes the same fucking shit. God, this is the most retarded fucking shit. This is the stupidest fucking thing you can ever do to yourself. Like, if you're, like, just kill yourself. Or, like, you're doing the biggest disservice to your mind. You're turning your brain into fucking mush when you have an idea or a belief and you jump into, like, a forum where everybody believes the same shit. How is that even fun for you? Like, you don't feel like you're being the biggest piece of shit, the most worthless fucking retard on the entire planet? That's not like, that doesn't bother anybody? I don't understand how people can go into places like this and be like, I believe X and Y, and then everybody else is like, oh dude, I do too, and then everybody else is like, oh my god, yeah, I totally did, and like, that's all you do all fucking day? Is like, you run home from outside, it's like, oh, the world is so scary, and then I come home and now, all these people, oh, they all believe the exact same thing as me, oh, I feel so, I'm so safe here, I don't have to actually critically evaluate anything I believe, and I don't have to actually, think about or analyze or self-reflect or oh no, everything I think is right because everybody's gonna agree with absolutely everything I say. And this is, this shit is fucking retarded. You can't honestly, this is why I hate subreddits like this. I hate the PC Master Race subreddit. Like, every subreddit that's a circle jerk is like, running into a subreddit like this is the biggest disservice that you can do for your growth as an individual than almost anything else I could ever think of in my entire fucking life. Like, I feel like at every stage in my life, I've always been happy with where I've been at because I feel like I'm constantly growing or like my ideas are changing, right? And the only way that ever happens is because usually I read a lot of stuff from people that disagree with me, right? It's why I get into arguments with people so much on Twitter or on Skype. It's why I do spend a lot of time reading fucking Shit Reddit Says and Shit Reddit Says discussion, SRS discussion, right? Because it is interesting to me, right? It's why I listen to Rush Limbaugh and Olympic on the radio, right? Because if you don't challenge your ideas, one, you don't know if they're actually real or not, okay? If you have an idea and you've never challenged it, that idea is fucking worthless. You don't even deserve to speak it to another human being, to any other soul. Like, you can't you can't. You should never say it to anybody. If you're not willing to challenge your beliefs, just shut the fuck up or kill yourself, okay? Because you're like subhuman at that point, right? Don't do that. If you have an idea, challenge it. Read somebody that disagrees with you. Listen to somebody that disagrees with you. Get in an argument with somebody who disagrees with you, and then see if your fucking idea holds up, right? If you get into an argument with somebody and you find yourself falling back on the same stupid shit over and over again, you're like, oh well, fuck. Like, maybe I have to fucking change my ideas. Maybe my shit just doesn't work, right? And for the most part, like, I feel like this is, for me personally, like, this is where how all of my beliefs have changed. I used to be a super fucking edgy teenager. I'm still edgy. I used to be a super edgy libertarian. And, I had all these beliefs on, like, oh, minimum wage is bad and the market, blah, 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 blah. And then, as time goes on, I read a lot of shit, I listen to a lot of shit. It's like, oh, well, you know what? These ideas, I really don't think they really fit anymore, right? That's why I flipped a lot on that kind of shit, right? I don't like to say flipping, right? I used to be really pro death penalty because I think that people could lose the right to life, blah, blah, blah. If you kill other people, especially. And then I thought more about, and then other people argue, like, well, if you do the death penalty, like, what are you saying about reform? What are you saying about your... It's like, oh, okay, well, that's a good point, right? And after a while, I run out of arguments. It's like, okay, well, fuck it, I changed my mind on this, you're right? Like, that's how you have to grow as a human being. Like, everybody makes fun of old people for being stuck in their ways, but it's not an age thing at all. I don't think it has to do at all with your age, because every single person that posts in a subreddit like this is just as bad as any 60, 70, 80-year-old evangelical Christian that believes that all gay people are going to hell and fucking the Republicans are sent by Jesus and Peter himself to rebuild the fucking church of the Republican Party, right? They're the exact same way. You have to be willing to challenge your ideas, and if you're not, Like you're barely human. Like I feel like our intelligence is like the biggest separator, right, between us and the fucking animals or anything else, right? Our fucking technology and all this shit. Like, oh god, I hate it. I hate echo chambers. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy how fucking stupid this shit is. And how content people are with being so fucking stupid. Not even stupid, but just the echo chamber shit is fucking retarded. Ah. You have to be and you have to be willing. Can you pinpoint a period of time where this? I ask an anthropologist. I don't fucking know, dog. I can't do this shit. Maybe it's always been like this, and I was too young to notice. I'm not sure. This idea where you have to be able to get along with a group of people that have different beliefs than you, okay? And once you get out of your little fucking college classroom and you actually work a real fucking job, or you have real life with real friends and real groups of people and you have to integrate with other people, everybody's not gonna have the same fucking opinion as you, everybody's not gonna have the same fucking political ideas as you, and everybody's not gonna have the same fucking moral or ethical standards as you. It changes. But as part of you as being an adult, a functioning adult in the real world, right, you have to be able to accept that and function with other groups of people. You have to be able to do it. Like, it's part of being an adult. Not everybody who works with you, not all your coworkers, not your fucking bosses, not your superiors or inferiors, like, not everybody is going to share all of the same beliefs. And you can't run to HR or run to your boss and turn somebody in because they celebrate Christopher Columbus Day or because they call Native Americans Indians still, right? Like, you can't do that. Like, how hot is it in my room? It's pretty fucking hot. I just got back from the gym a little bit ago too, so I'm pretty sweaty. It's pretty hot outside though too, I think. 84. Oh, it was hotter earlier. I guess it's cooling off now. It used to be that college was the place where you could challenge your opinions and change your views. Yeah, no, I agree. I want to say I agree, but I wasn't in college when I was like 9 or 10 years old, right? But going through high school, that's always what we learn in high school. When you step out of high school and you go to college for the first time, you're thrown in with a whole different group of people. All of these people might have been the best or the worst in their school, and now you've got to learn how to get along with all these people with different ideas, and so not all of them will agree with you. And college is way different than high school. How many people heard that? I went to a prep school, right? So we were all expected to go to college afterwards, right? How many times have you told us? We were always told us, when you go to college, they're not going to baby you. Like, we'll give you detention if you're late to school, but in college, you can skip all your class, your professor won't care, and you'll just fucking fail. Like, that's what our teachers used to say to us, right? Like, as brutally as that, right? If you go to college and you skip class, you can skip all the class you want, you're going to fail you. They're not going to hound you. They're not going to keep up on you. Somebody's making fun of you, if somebody does some shit to you, you have to go to the police. College isn't going to baby you. College isn't your mom and dad like we are in high school. We take care of you because we're going to get you ready for college, but when you get to college, they're not going to be there to fucking change your diaper. You have to do this shit yourself, right? Like, that's what I always learned in high school. I went to a private high school, which was a very good high school, which was one of the best in the country, right? Because I went to a fucking Jesuit high school, right? They're fucking serious about that shit, right? My high school was good, but I'm pretty sure most people in high school learn that shit. Most people in high school learn that in college, when you get out of high school and go to college, that's like your first step to adulthood, where the teachers don't care about you, the professors don't know your fucking name, you don't get extensions on your fucking paper because your uncle died for the 15th fucking time this semester. None of that shit works. You turn your test, you fail your shit, no extra credit, you're fucked. Because in college, they don't give a fuck about you, right? But now it seems like we're trying to turn college into high school, the second episode, where it's like, okay, well, now in college, we'll read this stuff. We're gonna read. Let me just take a sip of my hot chocolate. Fuck, I hate this shit. Three comics sat around a cafe table in the chilly atrium of the Minneapolis Convention Center talking about how to create the cleanest possible set. Don't do what's in your gut, Zoltan Kazas said. Better safe than sorry. Chinidu Unaka offered, Ferez Ozel mused about the first time he'd ever done stand-up. 3 minutes on giving his girlfriend herpes and banging his grandma. That was out. This was not a case of professionals approaching a technical problem as an intellectual exercise. Money was riding on the answer. They had to come to Minneapolis in the middle of a brutal winter for the annual convention of the National Association for Campus Activities to sell themselves and their comedy on the college circuit. Representatives of more than 350 colleges had come as well to book comics, musicians, sword swallowers, unicyclists, magicians, hypnotists, slam poets, and every kind of boat act. Inspirational speaker and one-trick pony you could imagine for the next academic year. For the comics, the college circuit offers a lucrative alternative to Chuckle Hut gigs out on the pitiless road, spots that pay a couple $100 and a free night in whatever squat the club owner uses to warehouse out-of-town talent. College gigs pay easily $1,000 a night, often much more, and they can come in a firecracker string, with relatively short drives between schools, each hour-long performance paid for without a moment's ugliness or hesitation by a friendly student activities kid holding out a check and hoping for a selfie. For all these reasons, thousands of comics dream of being invited to the convention. The colleges represented were, to use a word that their emissaries regarded as numinous, diverse. Huge research universities, tiny liberal arts colleges, Catholic schools, land-grant institutions. But the students' taste in entertainment was uniform. They liked their slam poets to deliver the goods in tones of the highest seriousness and on subjects of lunar bleakness. They favored musicians who could turn out covers with cheerful precision, and they wanted comedy that was 100% risk-free, comedy that could not trigger or upset or mildly trouble a single student. They wanted comedy so thoroughly scrubbed of barb and aggression that if the most hypersensitive weirdo on campus mistakenly wandered into a performance, the words he would hear would fall on him like a soft rain, producing a gentle chuckle and encouraging him to toddle back to his dorm, tuck himself in, and commence a dreamless sleep, not text to mom and dad that some monster had upset him with a joke. To get work, a comic had to be genuinely funny and also deeply respectful of a particular set of beliefs. Two of the most respected American comedians, Chris Rock and Jerry Seinfeld, have discussed the unique problems that comics face on college campuses. In November, Rock told Frank Rich, in an interview for New York Magazine that he no longer plays colleges because they're too conservative. He didn't necessarily mean that the students were Republican, he meant that they were far too eager not to offend anybody. In college gigs, he said, you can't even be offensive on your way to being inoffensive. Then in June, Seinfeld reopened the debate and set off a frenzied round of op-eds? Op-eds? I think that's what they're called, right? When he said in a radio interview that comics warn him not to go near colleges because they're so politically correct. When I attended the convention in Minneapolis in February, I saw ample evidence of the repressive atmosphere that Rock and Seinfeld described, as well as another, not unrelated factor, the infantilization of the American undergraduate and this character's evolving status in the world of higher learning. Less a student than a consumer, someone whose whims and affections, political, sexual, pseudo-intellectual, must be constantly supported and championed. To understand this change, it helps to think of college not as an institution of scholarly pursuits, but as an all-inclusive resort that it has in recent years become, and then to think of the undergraduate who drops out or transfers as an early checkout. Keeping hold of that kid for all 4 years has become a central obsession of the higher educational industrial complex. How do you do it? In part by importing enough jesters and bards to keep him from wandering away to someplace more entertaining, taking his Pell Grant and his 529 plan and his student loans with him. But which jesters and which bards? Ones who can handle the challenge, because when you put all of these forces together, political correctness, coddling, and the need to keep kids at once amused and unoffended, not to mention the absence of a 2-drink minimum and its crowd-lubricating effects, the black box theater of an obscure liberal arts college, deep in flyover territory, may just be the toughest comedy room in the country. You can't use logic on these people, Jeff Keith told me over dinner at the Hilton, or then they think you're a dick. He was about to walk through one of the frigid skyways connecting a cluster of downtown hotels to the Minneapolis Convention Center, where he would perform for 1,000 potential buyers, but he evinced not a trace of anxiety other than to glance at his iPhone now and then to make sure he wasn't late. Keith is one of the kings of the college circuit. A few years ago, he was the most booked college comic, playing 120 campuses. He challenges $2,300 USD for a single performance. Keith is 31, fast-witted and handsome, possessed of an acute and often witheringly precise ability to assess people and situations. He rocketed into comedy at a young age. At 22 years old, he spent a year and a half on the road performing with a popular headliner, Pablo Francisco, who let him do half an hour and allowed him to tell filthy stories on stage. Keith was a good-looking kid working big gigs in Vegas and Dallas and Chicago. He wasn't short on filthy stories. For a while, he was in danger of becoming too dirty for mainstream audiences, but he's smart and ambitious, so he toned down his material, put together a television reel, and sharpened his crowd work. He now has TV credits and a following. He lives in Los Angeles, where he kills at clubs, goes on auditions, and waits impatiently, as do all the young and talented people in Hollywood who have passed 30, for the big break. Until then, there's the college market and the logic problem. Trying to explain to these kids any of the fundamental truths of stand-up, from why it's not a good idea to hold a comedy show in the cafeteria during lunch hour, to why jokes involving gay people aren't necessarily homophobic, is a non-starter and only serves to antagonize the customers. The logic problem is also responsible for the fact that many of the comics at the convention weren't very funny, and several of those who were funny didn't get much work despite garnering huge laughs and even standing ovations. A young gay man with a Broadway background named Kevin Yee sang novelty songs about his life, producing a delirium of affection from the audience. "We love you, Kevin," a group of kids yelled between numbers. He invited students to the front of the auditorium for a gay dance party, and they charged down to take part. His last song about the close relationship that can develop between a gay man and his sassy black friend was a killer closer. The kids roared in delight, and several African-American young women in the crowd seemed to be self-identifying as sassy black friends. I assumed Yee would soon be barnstorming the country, but afterward, 2 white students from an Iowa college shook their heads no. He was perpetuating stereotypes, one of them said firmly. "We're a very forward-thinking school," she told me. "That thing about the sassy black friend, that wouldn't work for us." Many others apparently felt the same way. Yee ended up with 18 bookings, a respectable showing, but hardly a reflection of the excitement in the room when he performed. If your goal was simply to bring great comics to a college campus, it would be easily accomplished. You would gather the school's comedy nerds, give them a budget, and tell them to book the best acts they could afford. But then you'd have Doug Stanhope explaining to religious kids that there's no God, or Dennis Miller telling an audience of social justice warriors that France's efforts to limit junk food in schools are part of the country's master plan to raise healthier cowards. You would have, in other words, performers whose desire is not to soothe an audience, but to unsettle it. Performers who hew to Roseanne Barr's understanding of comedy. "I love stand-up. I'm totally addicted to it," she once said. "It's free speech. It's all that's left." College campuses have never been incubators for great stand-up. During the 1960s and 70s, schools didn't dedicate much money to bringing in entertainers. By the time they did, PC culture had taken off. This culture, its noble aspirations and inevitable endgame, was everywhere apparent at the convention. In the lavishly produced 144-page brochure, I found a densely written block of text that began with a trumpet blast of idealism. NACA is committed to advancing diversity development and the principles of equal opportunity and affirmative action through its respective programs, but wound down to a muffled fart of unintended consequences. There is no intent to support censorship. Bringing great artists to colleges is not NACA's mission. Its mission involves presenting for potential employment on American campuses a group of entertainers whose work upholds a set of ideals that has been codified by bureaucrats. And in the comedian's desperate attempt to grasp the real politic of the college market and to somehow reverse engineer an act catered to it, you could see why stand-up is such a singular form. It is mercilessly ineffective as agitprop. Agitprop? Agitprop? I've never actually heard this. Hold on. Political propaganda. Oh, gotcha. Especially in the form of comedy? Is that what it said? Especially in art or literature. Okay. Sorry. Because the inclination to hold a convention in Minneapolis in February is not widely shared, the convention center was largely deserted and dystopian. Homeless men, some wearing hospital gowns and ID bracelets under their parkas, slunk quietly inside to keep warm, although if they panhandled or menaced anybody, they were bounced back into the urban tundra by security guards. Vast expanses of the structure loomed in all directions, and empty escalators wheeled ever upward. During the day, educational sessions on topics of inexpressible tedium, wave goodbye to low volunteer retention, droned on. Testament, as are the educational sessions of 100 other conferences, to the fact that the growth field in higher education is not Elizabethan literature or organic chemistry, but mid-level administration. All of this was enlivened. All of this was enlivened mightily by the fact that the doors of the main auditorium regularly swung open for 2-hour variety shows. These shows were like episodes of America's Got Talent. Jolly and sparkly, sometimes diverting and sometimes worrisome, but in contrast to the lectures on volunteer retention, the gloomy convention center, and the gelid metropolis beyond, they came to seem like examples of the highest reaches of human achievement. And it was not mere journalistic zeal that had me thundering down the main aisle to grab a good seat for each new showcase. Jeez, is this whole thing like one sentence? What the fuck? You can break these sentences up some more. I've already read these quotes. Let me take a drink of my hot chocolate. The kids in the audience belonged to their school's student activities committees and had thus been appointed to the task of picking the paid entertainment for the next year. I found them as a type to be cheerful, helpful, rule-following, and nerdy. They were also, in the best sense of the loaded word, inclusive. We don't want to sponsor an event that would offend anyone. Courtney Benet, right? The incoming president of the Student Activities Board at Western Michigan University told me. The NACA kids were impossible not to like, although nothing about them suggested a natural talent for identifying original forms of artistic expression. They would cluster around their grown-up advisor like flocks of ducklings to powwow about the performers they had seen. Then, with the casual ease of people spending someone else's money, they would use an app to blast potential dates to the artists they like. These were the buyers, then, one half of the equation. The entertainers were the other half. They had come to the event on their own dime and were trying to do whatever it took to please these young people so that they could get some road work. Their first step might have been to read the convention brochure. NACA, it explained, or NACA, it explained, is dedicated to promoting the importance of eliminating any language that is discriminatory or culturally insensitive. Oh, Utopia, why must your sweet governance always turn so quickly from the Edenic to the Stalinist? Edenic, Eden, right? Edenic to the Stalinist. The college revolutions of the 1960s, the ones that gave rise to the social justice warriors of today's campuses, were fueled by free speech. But once you've won a culture war, free speech is a nuisance, and eliminating language becomes a necessity. This is a really loaded paragraph, but okay. The process begins, as such processes always do, in a committee of undisclosed members. In the fall, how long is this article? This long is we're really long. Oh, we're going to be reading for a while, boys, okay? Shh, just calm down, all right? The process begins, as such processes always do, in a committee of undisclosed members. In the fall, an anonymous group of staff and volunteers reviews hundreds of submission tapes to determine which performers will get to showcase their acts at the convention. What this seemed to boil down to, when I looked at the slate of performers who had gotten a golden ticket, was that comics who even gestured toward the insensitive had been screened out, and those whose racial or ethnic backgrounds contributed to the diversity of the slate had been given special consideration. There were comics of Nigerian, Afghan Pakistani, Indian, Hispanic, and Korean African American heritage. Some were very good, but others barely had the 15 minutes necessary for a showcase. It was hard to believe they would have the hours needed for college work. Many of these younger artists thought that if they could just get the gigs off the audition, they could then do their regular club act once they showed up on campus. They were mistaken. Tell a joke that upsets the kids, and the next morning the student activities director is going to be on the phone, to your agent, to NACA, and, more crucially, to his or her co-equals at the other 4 colleges in the region you booked. Jeff Keith had counseled Chinuda Yunaka and Ferez Ozel not only to work clean, but also to confine any jokes about ethnicity to their own heritage. Yunaka delivered an original and interesting set about growing up black in Los Angeles, the son of Nigerian, not African-American parents. Ozel, whose family is Middle Eastern, also did a bit about his cultural background. They were both well received, but they earned few bookings. Who could predict how such jokes would go over back on campus? Zoltan Kazis, on the other hand, did a cheerful anodyne set. Anodyne. Not likely to provoke dissent or offensive. Inoffensive up to... Okay, anodyne. Zoltan Kazis, on the other hand, did a cheerful anodyne set about Costco, camping, and pets. He was the breakout star of the convention. Look at him, one student's group advisor said to me, as more than 40 campus reps clamored for a visit from Kazas. His career just got made. Another victory for better safe than sorry. As I listened to the kids hash out on whom to invite, it became clear that to get work, a comic had to be at once funny, genuinely funny, and also deeply respectful of a particular set of beliefs. These beliefs included, but were in no way limited to, the following. Women, as a group, should never be made to feel uncomfortable. People whose sexual orientation falls beyond the spectrum of heterosexuality must be reassured of their special value. Racial injustice is best addressed in tones of bitter anguish or inspirational calls to action. Muslims are friendly helpers whom we should cherish, and belonging to any potentially marginalized community involves a crippling hypersensitivity that must always be respected. The students' determination to avoid booking any acts that might conceivably hurt the feelings of a classmate was, in its own way, quite admirable. They seemed wholly animated by kindness and by an open-mindedness to the many varieties of the human experience. But the flip side of this sensitivity is the savagery with which reputations and even academic careers can be destroyed by a single comment, perhaps thoughtless, perhaps misinterpreted, perhaps, God help you, intended as a joke, that violates the values of the herd. When you talk with college students outside of formal settings, many reveal nuanced opinions on the issues that Naka was so anxious to police. But almost all of them have internalized the code that you don't laugh at politically incorrect statements, you complain about them. In part, this is because they are the inheritors of 3 decades of identity politics, which have come to be a central driver of attitudes on college campuses. But there's more to it than that. These kids aren't dummies. They look around their colleges and see that there are huge incentives to join the ideological bandwagon and harsh penalties for questioning the platform's core ideas. Meanwhile, as obvious reactions to all of this, frat boys and other campus punksters regularly flout the thought police by staging events along elaborately racist themes, events that, while patently vile, are beginning to constitute the free speech movement of our time. Does this sound familiar? Remember Reddit? Remember Fat People Hate? The closest you're going to get to Mario Savio, sick at heart about the operation of the machine and willing to throw himself upon its gears and levers, is less the campus president of Human Rights Watch than the moron over at Phi Sigma Kappa who plans the Colonial Bros and Navajos mixer. After Jeff, Keith, and I finished dinner, we made our way to the auditorium and fell in with a group of other comics who were heading over to catch his set. Keith is deeply respected in this crowd. He may still be developing his career in the real comedy world, the one where you perform for grown-ups, but he can book as many colleges as he wants. Keith was dressed not in the understated clothing he wears in comedy clubs, but in an almost clownish getup. Bright pink pants, a green shirt, a polka dot tie. The outfit was strategic. He didn't want a kid forgetting his name and booking the wrong comic. He would remind the audience to think of him as the guy in the pink pants. Instead of performing for 15 minutes, he would cut his set short at the first big laugh after the 12-minute mark, so that the act would seem to fly by. He would tell jokes about his fiancée, his strict father, and getting out of jury duty and tricking someone by using an English accent. The students would love him and book him in great numbers, as they always do. But he would not tell the jokes that kill at the clubs. He would not do the bit that ends with him offering oral sex to the magician David Copperfield, or the one about a seductive woman warning him that she might be an axe murderer, or the one about why men don't like to use condoms. These jokes include observations about power and sex and even rape, and each in its own complicated way addresses certain ugly and possibly immutable truths, but they are jokes, not lessons from the gender studies classroom. Their first objective is to be funny, not to service any philosophical ideal. They go where comedy always wants to go, to the darkness, and they sucker punch you with a laugh when you don't think you should laugh. And maybe you shouldn't. These young people have decided that some subjects, among them rape and race, are so serious that they shouldn't be fodder for comics. They want a world that's less cruel. They want to play a game that isn't rigged in favor of the powerful. And it's their student activities money, after all. They have every right to hire the exact type of entertainment that matches their beliefs. Still, there's always a price to pay for walling off discussions of certain thoughts and ideas, drive those ideas underground, especially the dark ones, and they fester. Sarah Silverman has described the laugh that comes with a mouthful of blood, the hearty laugh from the person who understands your joke, not as a critique of some vile notion, but as an endorsement of it. It's the essential peril of comedy, as performers from Dave Chappelle to, most recently, Amy Schumer understand all too well. But to enroll in college and discover that for almost every aspect of your experience, right down to the stand-up comics who tell jokes in the student union, great care has been taken to expose you to only the narrowest range of approved social and political opinions. That's the mouthful of blood right there. Wow! Okay, that was a side article from the first paragraph of this one, the main one that we were still reading. Do you still want me to read this, or should we just play Hearthstone? I'll leave it up to you guys. That made no sense. What made no sense, Killbot? I can break it down for you if you want me to. I don't understand how such people could have such a dissonance. I'm sure there are psychologists probably do a great deal of study on this. If I had to venture a guess, which I would be surprised if it was wrong, the problem is that all of these ideas are always born out of good intentions, right? Like the intentions and the article that we just read had like lines that were specifically they want a world that's less cruel. They want to play a game that isn't rigged in favor of the powerful, right? There was this line. There was another line earlier in this article that hinted at it, saying like it was hard not to like the students because everything. Like the problem is, it's kind of like the whole like religious fanaticism. When people think that they're doing the right thing, they will do anything. I think, right?
The only correct position is total apathy. It's never worth it to debate topics that don't have great importance to yourself. Why pay them any mind? Why argue when you can just ignore? Why make room to care?
Well, for me personally, this has a personal effect on my life. Because people have tried to destroy my career over stuff like this, right? I mean, like, we can look at, I mean, you can Google SRS, where people have tried to, like, deliberately destroy my life because of, like, my ideas on words or whatever. This had to do, this is the whole, this is all, like, a personal thing. I don't know why everybody thinks that we can talk about this, but whatever. But yeah, like, if you search shit Reddit says, like, there have been plenty of, like, huge fucking posts like this where people have, like, listed, like, all of my sponsors and want to, like, an email. Where people want to, like, looks like most of his sponsors have already bailed. This kind of thought, like, I don't like talking about things that personally affect me, because I feel like, well, as a listener, you should take everything that I say personally about me with a huge grain of salt, almost to the point of ignoring it, right? Because I have a vested interest in securing my own financial future, right? But that being said, like, things like this are really disgusting to me. LaMail looks like most of the time, like, why would you want to destroy somebody's life just because they think, and I've never even had, like, particularly bad thoughts. Like, I've never been, like, opposed to gay marriage. I've never been for segregation. I've never been for, like, killing black people. Like, I've never, like, the most offensive thoughts that I've had, that I've, announced, is that a real word? Hold on. Yeah, announced. The most offensive things that I've announced over the past have been like, I don't think it should be a big deal if you say the word like nigger or faggot. I think you should be able to joke about anything, right? I think any word you should be able, right? Those are the most offensive things that I've ever said. Like, really, the most offensive things I've ever said in my life have been like, I don't think using racial slurs is that big of a deal, or I don't think, like, that's it. Like, but like, that's enough to like want to annihilate, like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and people spread a whole bunch of false shit on, like, that I passed on, like, child pornography and shit. Like, holy shit. But, yeah, I don't know. But regardless, so I personally, I have a vested interest in stuff like this. You could say that one, was this ever called Shirtgate? Everybody that's a public figure has a vested interest in this too, right? This guy's career he ran into a fuck ton of trouble. This guy got into so much trouble for something so stupid. This was like, I feel like this was part of like the epitome of when, like, if you don't realize how stupid this shit is,
This guy, he landed a spaceship on a comet. He landed. That's like hitting a bullet with a bullet. I mean, that's incredible. And he wore a T-shirt with some women.
Fuck. Does anybody have the video of him actually like crying? Like, oh my god, this was so sad.
About this. I made a big mistake, and I offended many people. And I'm very sorry about this.
Like, for wearing a fucking shirt. Like, how much of a fucking baby are you? Like, how do you see something like this and not just instantly fucking kill yourself? Life is so much harder than seeing somebody wear a fucking shirt. Like, how do you function? How can you even function? This is the most first world shit I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. Like, this is almost as bad as the Cecil shit. Almost, but not quite. Not quite that bad. Because the Cecil, I think was his name. Was it Cecil or Cecil? Was like some of the worst shit ever, okay? But like, this is pretty fucking close. Like, this, it really bothered you that much? It really bothered you that much that you had, like, holy shit. Like, don't care what scientists wear, but a shirt featuring women in lingerie isn't appropriate for a broadcast. We care about women instead. Go into STEM, you stupid fucking cunt! You're not going into STEM! You're not, because you're a fucking idiot! What the fuck does she fucking... Astrophysicist? Fucking occasional freelance science writer? No, fuck off. You don't fucking do anything. Fuck you, okay? Fuck this fucking cunt. What? Like, if you can't handle... Like, if that's it? Is that honestly it? Like, that's the big thing. This is what's keeping women from going into sciences right here? Maybe women shouldn't be going into sciences then, right? Because life is so much harder than this. Like, I've lived a pretty privileged life, and I know that life is so... I try to imagine how fucking spoiled and babied are you that this is the kind of thing that discourages you. That this is how fucking weak and pathetic you are as a fucking person. Like, holy shit! Like, how mind-bogglingly fucking stupid do you have to be to look at something like this? Holy shit! I don't know, fam. No, women are totally welcome in our community. Just ask the dude in this shirt. Oh my god. Like, really? Like... God, this guy is so fucking cool. Holy shit. The shirt was a dumb idea. Like, honestly, like, the way that this is solved in the real world, like, how this should go down is, like, his boss says, dog, you're on, like, an international broadcast. I think that the shirt probably detracts a little bit from your messages, especially, like, the tattoos and everything. Just wear, like, a nice button-down shirt and you're good to go. Like, or maybe, like, I'm gonna dock you, like, $500 or whatever. Like, you can't wear that kind of shirt on television and be like, okay, you're right. Like, it was kind of dumb or whatever. But, like, holy shit. I want to be happy, but that man sure triggered me, and now I can't go to college anymore. This was clearly a personal attack on all women, but more importantly, I know with my vagina that it was an attack on me. I've been oppressed, raped by a tool of the patriarchy. Everyone give me money. A woman made him that shirt. That woman was like his best friend, and it was his favorite shirt because it was made especially from... Oh, maybe. Yeah, it's... Like, this is crazy, dude. Thanks for ruining the cool comet landing for me. Like, how stupid do you have to be to say something like that? Like... I've created a new shirt for Dr. Matt Taylor, approved by feminists. That was pretty funny. Oh shit, that's actually really funny. This is like 10 out of 10. This is really good. Oh, I never saw that before. Official ESA approved uniforms. You're literally scrolling through the comment section looking for people to argue against. What are you talking about? This is a huge deal. I'm not making this a huge deal of nothing. This is a huge deal all without me, dog. If you don't read the news or keep up on, like, anything, you've lived in a closet, like, don't blame me. I'm sorry if that's, like, a thing for you. I remember reading this. Oh, I remember this comment. Big fucking surprise. Chris Plain of Vox, formerly of Polygon, decided to shit on a scientist who just landed the spacecraft on a comet because his shirt had semi-naked women on it. Not naked, semi-naked. And the real fucking kicker, the shirt was a birthday gift from his friend who was a girl who designed and made the shirt herself. This man... this guy who made a fucking monumental leap forward for science was brought to tears during his apology because feminists couldn't fucking deal with the shirt and decided to dogpile him. Seriously, fuck each and every one of these people who attacked him. He chose to wear a shitty, stupid shirt to a huge event he knew would be recorded. He made his bed and has to lay in it. No sympathy. Seriously, though, what the fuck did he think would happen? Someone at the place should have told him to change because he's also representing his team in the mission, and that is what he decided was appropriate. Again, no sympathy. Are you saying he deserved it because of what he was wearing? Gosh, that sounds awfully familiar. Oh, shit! These memes. This gets a retweet. This is old as fuck. I don't give a fuck. I'll retweet that. That's pretty funny. Blown the fuck out.
Yeah, I was gonna be a rocket scientist, but I changed my mind. Because of a shirt.
Rip. Okay, we're done. Okay, anyway. Okay, I'm gonna try to read this article. Hopefully we don't get sidetracked by any more articles. So the article we just read about comedians was linked to in this article, and I wanted to read it because I thought the article would be interesting, and it was. I'm glad we read it. This article's pretty long. Sorry, good luck. Let me drink more hot chocolate. What was up with the Cecil thing? I think everybody that made a big deal out of Cecil could fucking kill themselves. This is the stupidest fucking thing in the world. Africa's a fucking shithole. There's a fuck ton of fucking problems. The only time we give a fuck about Africa is when, like, FIFA is fucking involved, or a lion gets killed, and that's it. Like, I think that the whole making a big deal of that lion dying was the biggest slap in the face to any fucking, like, I feel so bad. How many fucked people live fucked lives in some continent that you don't even fucking study in school? Africa is, what is Africa? When you ask a kid in school, what is Africa? Oh, that's the place that, like, Europe went and colonized a bunch and we got slaves from. Like, that's all you learn about Africa. It's the biggest fucking shithole in the world. Maybe South America's worth. I don't actually know. South America might be worse. I don't think it is, though. It's the biggest shithole in the world. Fucking legalized slavery. Fucking all horrible fucking shit. People getting murdered. Genocides on the fucking daily. Like, fuck. Africa is so fucked. And the only fucking story we give a fuck about, the only fucking story we give a fuck about is, like, the fucking lion. Like, I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way. It's too much. If people, like, gave a fuck about African issues more often, I wouldn't care as much. But so many people getting so fucking mad about that lion shit, it rubbed me the wrong way. And I know there's a lot of people in chat that are gonna disagree and say a whole bunch of shit, but nothing you're gonna say is gonna change your mind, because I've seen all the fucking arguments against it. I don't give a fuck. That shit it's not right. Like, that shit is not right. Was the Cecil lion getting killed wrong? Yeah, sure, and it was bad and it was shitty and all of that, but for people to get as mad as they did about it, because people look at an animal and they go instantly fucking retarded, they act like a fucking 3-year-old, like, oh, the lion died, I wish I could, oh, the lion died, like, it's fucking like, oh my god, like, that's it? Like, that's what you care about in Africa? Like, that's not, nah, that's fucked up, man. It's fucked up. You don't give a fuck about anything that goes on in Africa, but when a fucking lion dies, you're gonna go fucking boycott some dentist and start tweeting, getting on social media, then fucking kill yourself. You worthless subhuman fuck. Like, go live with a fucking lion, seriously. Can we just read this article? Oh, God. Alright, I'm just gonna read this article, okay? Number of popular comedians, okay. Either you're exaggerating or I misread something. Were people really that upset? Were people really that upset, dog? Are you serious? Did you see, like, the fucking, like, the window outside the, like, dentist office? Like, all the people protesting? All the people putting signs and animals saying that we're gonna fucking kill you and you deserve to die and all, like, people putting all these fucking signs up and shit? Like, you are a coward and a killer! Oh my god. And it's like, all of these people who don't give a fuck about anything that happens in Africa besides lion dying, and all these people eat meat. These are all fucking meat eaters that have millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of cows and pigs slaughtered and fucking chickens farmed on the fucking daily. Every fucking day. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of fucking animals are killed all the time to feed these people. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about all these animals. But the lion, are you fucking serious? Holy shit. Rot in hell! There's a deep cavity waiting for you. Holy shit! Yeah, people were mad as fuck. Walter Palmer, the butcher of Bloomington. Maybe now the good doctor feels what it's like to be hunted. Cat lives matter. Destiny, please don't say they all eat meat. You don't know any... Okay. Percentage of vegetarians, United States. 1% of U.S. citizens describe themselves as being vegetarians. And 2013 public policy... Oh, that was a 97. Okay. 13% identify as vegetarian or vegan. In 2012, a Gallup poll found 5% identify as vegetarian and 2% as vegan. So whatever the number is, it's some small percentage I don't know how these vary so much, but anywhere from 1%, or that was a 97, so I guess anywhere from 5% to 10%. I'm pretty sure that most of the people protesting were not vegetarian, okay? Alright, okay, we're done. Anyway, we're moving on from this. Let me just read this article. Isn't it only natural to be selective about what you care about? Isn't that just human nature? I agree, but when the things that you choose to be selective about in a country, in a continent that's as fucked as Africa, is just one lion dying, I feel like that says something about you as a person, and it's not something that I consider to be positive. But that's just my opinion. Some people disagree. I would argue against those people if you want to, but 2 terms have risen quickly from obscurity into common campus parlance. Microaggressions are small actions or word choices that seem on their face to have no malicious intent, but that are thought of as a kind of violence nonetheless. For example, by some campus guidelines, it is a microaggression to ask an Asian American or Latino American, "Where were you born?" because this implies that he or she is not a real American. Trigger warnings are alerts that professors are expected to issue if something in a course might cause a strong emotional response. For example, some students...
Destiny, you are literally my spirit animal.
Wow.
I share nearly all of my opinions with you, and I wish I could articulate them all the way you do. I love you, BB.
Oh, I love you too, buddy. You probably shouldn't get all your opinions from me, though, because my opinions change every 2 fucking years, dog. For example, some students have called for warnings that Chinua, I can't pronounce his name. Is that Akabe? Will it pronounce the name? It's not going to. Well, I'm just going to call him Chin Boy. Chinua. Some students have called for warnings that Chinua, Things Fall Apart, describes racial violence, and that F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby portrays misogyny and physical abuse, so that students who have been previously victimized by racism or domestic violence can choose to avoid those works, which they believe might trigger a reoccurrence of past trauma. Some recent campus actions border on the surreal. In April, at Brandeis University, the Asian American Student Association sought to raise awareness of microaggressions against Asians through an installation on the steps of an academic hall. The installation gave examples of microaggressions such as, "Aren't you supposed to be good at math?" and "I'm colorblind, I don't see race." But a backlash arose among other Asian American students who felt that the display itself was a microaggression. The association removed the installation, and its president wrote an email to the entire student body apologizing to anyone who was triggered or hurt by the content of the microaggressions. Holy shit. According to them, I don't know if this comes from the article or not. Okay, it will. So I'm not going to read these. This new climate is slowly being institutional... we'll read it anyway. So I had, I guess, a break or whatever. According to the most basic tenets of psychology, helping people with anxiety orders avoid the things they fear is misguided. Wow. Seiya, wondering if Destiny agrees. I can't read chat. There is a big difference between hunting animals for meat and killing an animal for sport. That's so fucking stupid. It's not true. Fuck off with that shit. If an animal is okay to kill, an animal is okay to kill, period. To say that it's okay to kill something because you're eating it, but killing it for sport is wrong is some of the most misguided, fucking ignorant... I can't even imagine how, like, you should join the Olympics because your mental gymnasium must be, like, the most complicated thing in the fucking world. Like, the comparison that I used for that is like a kid, and people get mad when I say it's like, a kid is running through a parking lot, and you fucking snipe the kid and kill him, and the parents are like, dude, you can't just fucking kill kids, and then you're like, hold on, dog, I'm gonna eat him, so it's okay. Okay. Like, what? And you say, that's not a fair comparison, Destiny, you're a strong man. Okay, why isn't it fair? Because you're not allowed to kill people, it's not right. I agree, you're not allowed to kill people, period. There aren't circumstances where it's okay to just kill innocent people, right? You can't do it. So why would you say that there are circumstances where it's okay to kill animals, and then somewhere it's not? It doesn't make any sense. Like, well, you kill a whole bunch of cows. Well, that's okay because you were eating them, but you can't shoot. Like, so what if a cow escapes the farm and is running down the street? Can I kill that because we're not gonna eat it anymore? Or like, what if a cow gets sick? Can I hunt that? Or like, what if I go hunt a lion and I eat like half of it? Like that's so fucking stupid. Like the cognitive dissonance that must exist in your mind when you try to reconcile those two ideas. Like, oh my god, your dad hunts? He's so evil. Well, no. When he hunts, he uses all the parts. Well, does he eat it? Well, yeah, he does. He makes jerky out of the, I mean, okay, as long as he eats it, it's okay. Well, he only makes jerky out of some parts. He throws it away. Okay, wait, well, that's not right. He's gotta eat all of it. Like, what's going through your head? Like, how can these two thoughts even exist right next to each other and you live in harmony? Holy shit. I'm sorry. I don't want to argue about the animal shit. I just want to read this, okay? Can I just read this? I just want to read this. I'm not going to get into this. I'm not getting into this argument. This is not where we're going. What about war? Isn't that it? Yes. If we ever have to go to war with animals, then we can talk about when the fucking homeless cat society gets together and starts invading cities. Destiny, I just don't get how you think killing for fun and sport, taking an animal's life for fun, is the same as killing an animal for its meat. Something humans have done since the beginning of forever. I mean, humans have raped people since the beginning of forever. Like, do you think that all sex was fucking consensual back in society where we had like pre-civilization? Do you think that every woman that fucked a guy, do you know that the reason why the head of your penis is shaped like a mushroom is so that you can scoop the semen of other men out of women when you fuck them or rape them? Like, why do people and I'm not saying that every single thing was a rape, but like that's the worst argument for anything ever. Because we did it at the beginning of society, do you think that it's fair to say, like, we did a lot of things in the beginning. Fucking slavery used to be legal. Fucking killing transgender and gay people in the street used to be legal. Fucking stoning people used to be legal. Like, there's a whole bunch of shit that we used to do. That doesn't mean we have to do it forever. Like, what the fuck?
Yes:// Wikipedia.org wiki emu_war.
Emu war. Oh, shit. Okay. I don't want to... We're not... I don't want to get... Can we just... Destiny, you need to explain to people that you desire consistency among people, which is what most people don't have. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I should have said that more maybe I should have said more blatantly. When I try to have like an ethical or moral code, I like consistency because consistency makes it very easy for me to get a piece of information, for me to process it, and then for me to spit out what I consider to be like a coherent, fluid idea that is consistent with all of my other beliefs, so that everything I can see, like, hey, this guy did this thing. Okay, well, I'm morally consistent. I think that thing is bad. There you go. Like, the less questions you have to ask, and the more consistent you're like, oh, that's okay. Like, this guy, like, if I was a vegan, right? This guy just shot an animal. Okay, well, that's wrong. Because I think that killing animals is wrong. Because I don't think we should just kill animals. Like, that's crazy. Even for food, there are other things we can eat, right? You can eat and be healthy, perfectly healthy, without ever eating an animal, okay? That's possible to do. So I don't think you should ever kill animals, period. And we're humans. We're their caretakers. We're better than them. So it's part of our obligation to the planet to not kill animals for no fucking reason when we can eat other shit, right? So if a vegan were to say that, hey, I'm going hunting, like, I think that's wrong. Because I'm a vegan and because I think that all animals should be blah, blah, blah. And, oh, well, fuck. I mean, I disagree with you, but hey, you're morally consistent. So A fucking plus for you, dog. Because you know what? You can sleep easy at night because at least you're not fucking, you don't have the cognitive dissonance, like, threatening to split your head like a fucking atom bomb every 2 seconds. Whereas if, like, my dad's going hunting, is he gonna eat the food afterwards? Yes, he is. Okay. He's gonna eat it, right? Huh. Yes, okay. Do you think the animal gives a fuck? Here's a question. If you care that much about the animal, do you think that when fucking Bambi's standing there and her 4 beautiful blossoming little deers, who 2 of which were born with cerebral palsy and they can't take care of themselves, and Bambi runs out to eat and gather berries to feed her children, and these children play and frolic in the forest, do you think that when the hunter comes through and shoots Bambi in the fucking head, and then her 4 cubs are ravaged by hyenas or whatever that come by and fucking eat them and torture them and kill them because some animals do that shit, right? Do you think that Bambi and her children gave a fuck whether or not the hunter was gonna eat her or hang her head on a fucking pole or whatever. Like, do you think that the deer actually gives a fuck? Like, when you go to hunt an animal, do you think that as the animal's laying there dying, like, you come over and, you know, ready for the kill shot because you didn't get it with the first one, and he's, and the animal's like, oh god, I hope he eats me instead of hangs my face. Like, do you really think that, like, how, like, I just want to talk about this. Can I just read this? I don't want to do this. I just want to read this right now, okay? I just want to read. I don't want to go on to the animal shit. I just want to read this shit, okay? Can I just read this shit? Can we be done? Yeah, I think we can be done with the animal thing, okay? Okay, let me just get another sip of my hot chocolate. Am I microaggressing you? Okay. Okay, we'll read this next, okay? Sure, we'll read this next, okay? Alright, let me get my reading voice on, okay? We'll take the microphone down. And we'll be like a real stream. Oh wait, never mind, I have to like get the cord, never mind, fuck that. Well, hold on. Do I... No, I don't really want to. Yeah, we'll do it, fuck it. We'll have it NPR time. That's the reason I own 2 of these, I guess, huh? This isn't good for the mic. Don't ever do this. Don't plug your mics in with phantom power on, boys. Testing 1 2 testing. Okay, you can hear me right now, right? We're gonna do NPR reading time, right? I think you guys should be able to hear me right now, right? Hold on, let me check. I'm holding this, so I don't know if there's like a ton of background noise and shit. Biz, right? Is it super fucked? What's going on right now? It's so fucking loud. Is it really loud? Super echo. Some people are saying it's too loud. Some people are saying there's an echo. Is there an echo? Turn up your mic? Some people are saying... Sounds like 2 mics. Oh. This doesn't work? Mute. Oh. Okay. Do we sound okay right now? Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Right? Are we okay? Okay. All right. NPR reading time, okay? Does this look like I have a giant dick near my mouth? Holy shit. Okay. This new climate is slowly being institutionalized and is affecting what can be said in the classroom, even as a basis for discussion. During the 2014 to 2015 school year, for instance, the deans and department chairs at the 10 University of California System schools were presented by administrators at faculty leader training sessions with examples of microaggression. Wait, what's wrong? What's going on? There's an echo? How is there an echo? Hold on. Schools were presented by administrators. Oh. Wait, how is that even happening? What's going on? Wait, hold on. All right, is there an echo right now? Testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Is there an echo right now? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Three, testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Is there an Okay. I'm going to say fire truck. Tell me if there's an echo on the word fire truck. Fire truck. I don't think there's going to be an echo here. Now I'm going to say the word ambulance. Tell me if there is an echo on the word ambulance. I'm now saying the word ambulance. Is there an echo on the word ambulance? Now we're back to the word fire truck. Is there an echo on the word fire truck? And now... okay. Okay, I understand what was going on then. Okay. All right, so right now there is no echo, correct? Or on ambulance. Yeah. Sorry, ambulance. Gotcha. Fire truck is good, ambulance is bad. Got it. Okay, so right now we should be good. Right? We're good? Okay. Back to the NPR reading sessions. Destiny, you can't move that mic. I'm trying to hold it as still as possible, okay? Let me start reading. Okay, I'll read a paragraph and you can tell me if it's okay. This new climate is slowly being institutionalized and is affecting what can be said in the classroom, even as a basis for discussion. During the 2014 to 2015 school year, for instance, the deans and department chairs of the 10 University of California System schools were presented by administrators at faculty leader training sessions with examples of microaggressions. The list of offensive statements included, "America is the land of opportunity," and "I believe the most qualified person should get the job." Are we okay? Does this sound okay? There's more sound in the right ear. That shouldn't be possible. Are you sure there is? Is there actually? Is there actually? Oh my fucking god. This shit. What about right now? Is it okay now? Hold on. Say something, you fuck. Oh my fucking god. This shit. What about right now? Is it okay now? Hold on. Say something, you fuck. Oh my fucking god. It's even right now, but it didn't. Okay. All right. It's all in right here. Kill yourself. Okay. I'm just going to do it like this then, okay? Okay. I'm going hard. Okay. Kill everybody. Okay. Can I just read this? Holy shit. This is taking way longer than it's supposed to, okay? Okay. Okay, here we go. This new climate is slowly being institutionalized and is affecting what can be said in the classroom, even as a basis for discussion. During the 2014 to 2015 school year, for instance, the deans and department chairs at the 10 University of California System schools were presented by administrators at faculty-leading training sessions with examples of microaggressions. This list of offensive statements included, "America is the land of opportunity," and "I believe the most qualified person should get the job." The press has typically described these developments as a resurgence of political correctness. That's partially right, although there are important differences between what's happening now and what happened in the 1980s and 90s. That movement sought to restrict speech, specifically hate speech aimed at marginalized groups, but it also challenged the literary, philosophical, and historical canon, seeking to widen it by including more diverse perspectives. The current movement is largely about emotional well-being. More than the last, it presumes an extraordinarily fragility of the collegiate psyche, and therefore elevates the goal of protecting students from psychological harm. The ultimate aim, it seems, is to turn campuses into safe spaces where young adults are shielded from words and ideas that make some uncomfortable. And more than the last, this movement seeks to punish anyone who interferes with that aim, even accidentally. You might call this impulse vindictive protectiveness. It is creating a culture in which everyone must think twice before speaking up, lest they face charges of insensitivity, aggression, or worse. We have been studying this development for a while now with rising alarm. Greg Lukianoff is a constitutional lawyer and the president and CEO of the Foundation for Individual Rights and Education, which defends free speech and academic freedom on campus and has advocated for students and faculty involved in many of the incidents of this article describes. Jonathan Haidt is a social psychologist who studies the American culture wars. The stories of how we each came to this subject can be read here. I'm not going to read this article. The dangers that these trends pose to scholarship and to the quality of American universities are significant. We could write a whole essay detailing them, but in this essay we focus on a different question. What are the effects of this new protectiveness on the students themselves? Does it benefit the people it is supposed to help? What exactly are students learning when they spend 4 years or more in a community that polices unintentional slights, places warning labels on works of classic literature, and in many other ways conveys the sense that words can be forms of violence that require strict control by campus authorities, who are expected to act as both protectors and prosecutors? Destiny, you have to hold it closer. Is it really not good? I can't tell if people are being retarded or not. I can't. Can somebody tell me? Are we okay? I think we're okay. Oh, it's Sweetie Belle. Never mind. Sorry, I should have just ignored it. There's a saying common in education circles: don't teach students what to think, teach them how to think. The idea goes back at least as far as Socrates. Today, what we call the Socratic method is a way of teaching that fosters critical thinking, in part by encouraging students to question their own unexamined beliefs as well as the received wisdom of those around them. Such questioning sometimes leads to discomfort and even to anger on the way to understanding. But vindictive protectiveness teaches students to think in a very different way. It prepares them poorly for professional life, which often demands intellectual engagement with people and ideas one might find uncongenial or wrong. Holy shit, this is like the same shit that I was just talking about. It's almost like I read the article first, but I don't have the dedication to that. All right. The harm may be more immediate, too. A campus culture devoted to policing speech. I'm not trying to say I'm like really smart for this. This should be like pretty common sense, I think, right? A campus culture devoted to policing speech and punishing speakers is likely to engender patterns of thought that are surprisingly similar to those long identified by cognitive behavioral therapists as causes of depression and anxiety. The new protectiveness may be teaching students to think pathologically. How did we get here? It's difficult to know exactly why vindictive protectiveness has burst forth so powerfully in the past few years. The phenomenon may be related to recent changes in the interpretation of federal anti-discrimination statutes, about which more later. But the answer probably involves generational shifts as well. Childhood itself
changed greatly during the past generation. Many baby boomers and Gen Xers can remember riding their bicycles around their hometowns unchaperoned by adults by the time they were 8 or 9 years old. In the hours after school, kids were expected to occupy themselves, getting into minor scrapes and learning from their experiences. But free-range childhood became less common in the 1980s. The surge in crime from the 60s through the early 90s made baby boomer parents more protective than their own parents had been. Stories of abducted children appeared more frequently in the news, and in 1984, images of them began showing up on milk cartons. In response, many parents pulled in the reins and worked harder to keep their children safe. The flight to safety also happened at school. Dangerous play structures were removed from playgrounds. Peanut butter was banned from student lunches. After the 1999 Columbine massacre in Colorado, many schools cracked down on bullying, implementing zero-tolerance policies. In a variety of ways, children born after 1980, the millennials, got a consistent message from adults. Life is dangerous, but adults will do everything in their power to protect you from harm, not just from strangers, but from one another as well. These same children grew up in a culture that was, and still is, becoming more politically polarized. Republicans and Democrats have never particularly liked each other, but survey data going back to the 1970s show that on average, their mutual dislike used to be surprisingly mild. Negative feelings have grown steadily stronger, however, particularly since the early 2000s. Political scientists call this process affective partisan polarization, and it is a very serious problem for any democracy. As each side increasingly demonizes the other, compromise becomes more difficult. A recent study shows that implicit or unconscious biases are now at least as strong across political parties as they are across races. So it's not hard to imagine why students arriving on campus today might be more desirous of protection and more hostile towards ideological opponents than in generations past. This hostility and the self-righteousness fueled by strong partisan emotions can be expected to add force to any moral crusade. A principle of moral psychology is that morality binds and blinds. Part of what we do when we make moral judgments is express allegiance to a team, but that can interfere with our ability to think critically. Acknowledging that the other side's viewpoint has any merit is risky. Your teammates may see you as a traitor. Social media makes it extraordinarily easy to join crusades, express solidarity and outrage, and shun traitors. Facebook was founded in 2004, and since 2006 it has allowed children as young as 13 years old to join. This means that the first wave of students who spent all of their teen years using Facebook reached college in 2011 and graduated from college only this year. These first true social media natives may be different from members of previous generations in how they go about sharing their moral judgments and supporting one another in moral campaigns and conflicts. We find much to like about these trends. Young people today are engaged with one another, with news stories and with pro-social endeavors to a greater degree than when the dominant technology was television. But social media has also fundamentally shifted the balance of power and relationships between students and faculty. The latter increasingly fear what students might do to their reputations and careers by stirring up online mobs against them. We do not mean to imply simple causation, but rates of mental illness in young adults have been rising, both on campus and off, in recent decades. Some portion of the increase is surely due to better diagnosis and greater willingness to seek help, but most experts seem to agree that some portion of the trend is real. Nearly all of the campus mental health... I would have loved to see a link to this. There should be a source to that statement. That's a really important statement. Sorry. Nearly all of the campus mental health directors surveyed in 2013 by... I guess it's coming, sorry. Nearly all of the campus mental health directors surveyed in 2013 by the American College Counseling Association reported that the number of students with severe psychological problems was rising at their schools. The rate of emotional distress reported by students themselves is also high and rising. In a 2014 survey by the American College Health Association, 54% of college students surveyed said that they had felt overwhelming anxiety. In the past 12 months, up from 49% in the same survey just 5 years earlier. Students seem to be reporting more emotional crises. Many seem fragile, and this has surely changed the way university faculty and administrators interact with them. The question is whether some of these changes might be doing more harm than good. The thinking cure. For millennia, philosophers have understood that we don't see life as it is. We see a version distorted by our hopes, fears, and other attachments. The Buddha said, "Our life is the creation of our mind." Marcus Aurelius said, "Life itself is but what you deem it." The quest for wisdom in many traditions begins with this insight. Early Buddhists and the Stoics, for example, developed practices for reducing attachments, thinking more clearly, and finding release from the emotional torments of normal mental life. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a modern embodiment of this ancient wisdom. It is the most extensively studied non-pharmaceutical treatment of mental illness and is widely used to treat depression, anxiety disorders, eating disorders, and addiction. It can even be of help to schizophrenics. No other form of psychotherapy has been shown to work for a broader range of problems. Studies have generally found that it is as effective as antidepressant drugs such as Prozac in the treatment of anxiety and depression. The therapy is relatively quick and easy to learn. After a few months of training, many patients can do it on their own. Unlike drugs, cognitive behavioral therapy keeps working long after treatment is stopped because it teaches thinking skills that people can continue to use. The goal is to minimize distorted thinking and see the world more accurately. You start by learning the names of the dozen or so most common cognitive distortions, such as overgeneralizing, discounting positives, and emotional reasoning. See the list at the bottom of this article. Each time you notice yourself falling prey to one of them, you name it, describe the facts of the situation, consider alternative interpretations, and then choose an interpretation of events more in line with those facts. Your emotions follow your new interpretation. In time, this process becomes automatic. When people improve their mental hygiene in this way, when they free themselves from the repetitive, irrational thoughts that had previously filled so much of their consciousness, they become less depressed, anxious, and angry. The parallel to formal education is clear. Cognitive behavioral therapy teaches good critical thinking skills, the sort that educators have striven for so long to impart. By almost any definition, critical thinking requires grounding one's belief in evidence rather than in emotion or desire, and learning how to search for and evaluate evidence that might contradict one's initial hypothesis. But does campus life today foster critical thinking, or does it coax students into more distorted ways? Let's look at recent trends in higher education in light of the distortions that cognitive behavioral therapy identifies. We will draw the names and descriptions of those distortions from David D. Burns' popular book, Feeling Good, as well as from the second edition of Treatment Plans and Interventions for Depression and Anxiety Disorders by Robert L. Leahy, Stephen J. F. Holland, and Lada K. McGinn. Higher education's embrace of emotional reasoning. Burns defines emotional reasoning as assuming that your negative emotions necessarily reflect the way things really are. I feel it, therefore it must be true. Leahy, Holland, and McGinn define it as letting your feelings guide your interpretation of reality. But of course, subjective feelings are not always trustworthy guides. Unrestrained, they can cause people to lash out at others who have done nothing wrong. Therapy often involves talking yourself down from the idea that each of your emotional responses represents something true or important. Emotional reasoning dominates many campus debates and discussions. A claim that someone's words are offensive is not just an expression of one's own subjective feeling of offendedness. It is rather a public charge that the speaker has done something objectively wrong. It is a demand that the speaker apologize or be punished by some authority for committing an offense. There have always been some people who believe they have a right not to be offended. Yet throughout American history, from the Victorian era to the free speech activism of the 1960s and 70s, radicals have pushed boundaries and mocked prevailing sensibilities. Sometime in the 1980s, however, college campuses began to focus on preventing offensive speech, especially speech that might be hurtful to women or minority groups. The sentiment underpinning this goal was laudable, but it quickly produced some absurd results. What are we doing to our students if we encourage them to develop extra thin skin just before they leave the cocoon of adult protection? It's like the liner. Among the most famous early examples of the so-called was the so-called water buffalo incident at the University of Pennsylvania. In 1993, the university charged an Israeli-born student with racial harassment after he yelled, "Shut up, you water buffalo," to a crowd of black sorority women that was making noise at night outside his dorm room window. Many scholars and pundits at the time could not see how the term water buffalo, a rough translation of a Hebrew's insult for a thoughtless or rowdy person, was a racial slur against African Americans, and as a result, the case became international news. Claims of a right not to be offended have continued to arise since then, and universities have continued to privilege them. In a particular egregious 2008 case, for example, Indiana University, Indianapolis found a white student guilty of racial harassment for reading a book titled Notre Dame vs. the Klan. The book honored student opposition to the Ku Klux Klan when it marched on Notre Dame in 1924. Nonetheless, the picture of a Klan rally on the book's cover offended at least one of the student's co-workers. He was a janitor as well as a student, and that was enough.
Stop.
The book honored student opposition to the Ku Klux Klan when it marched on Notre Dame in 1924. Nonetheless, the picture of a Klan rally on the book's cover offended at least one of the student's co-workers. He was a janitor as well as a student, and that was enough for a guilty finding by the university's affirmative action office. Oh shit, I hit the wrong button. It's fucking Notre Dame, not Notre Dame. I've heard it pronounced in many different ways, so I'm just gonna pronounce it the way that I've always heard it. These examples may seem extreme, but the reasoning behind them has become more commonplace on campus in recent years. Last year at the University of St. Thomas in Minnesota, an event called Hump Day, which would have allowed people to pet a camel, was abruptly canceled. Students had created a Facebook group where they protested the event for animal cruelty, for being a waste of money, and for being insensitive to people from the Middle East. The inspiration for the camel had almost certainly come from a popular TV commercial in which a camel saunters around an office on a Wednesday celebrating Hump Day. It was devoid of any reference to Middle Eastern peoples. Nevertheless, the group organizing the event announced on its Facebook page that the event would be canceled because the program was dividing people and would make for an uncomfortable and possibly unsafe environment. Because there is a broad ban in academic circles on blaming the victim, it is generally considered unacceptable to question the reasonableness, let alone the sincerity, of someone's emotional state, particularly if those emotions are linked to one's group identity. The thin argument, "I'm offended," becomes an unbeatable trump card.
Read about the Emu War. Both of my grandfathers are veterans, and one remains crippled for life due to that battle. My other grandfather lost 5 of his best friends. Show some fucking respect.
The thin argument, "I'm offended," becomes an unbeatable trump card. This leads to what Jonathan Rauch, I don't know, a contributing editor at this magazine, calls the offendedness sweepstakes, in which opposing parties use claims of offense as cudgels. In the process, the bar for what we consider unacceptable speech is lowered further and further. Since 2013, new pressure from the federal government has reinforced this trend. Federal anti-discrimination statutes regulate on-campus harassment and unequal treatment based on sex, race, religion, and national origin. Until recently, the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights acknowledged that speech must be objectively offensive before it could be deemed actionable as sexual harassment. It would have to pass the reasonable person test. To be prohibited, the office wrote in 2003, allegedly harassing speech would have to go beyond the mere expression of views, words, symbols, or thoughts that some person finds offensive. But in 2013, the Department of Justice and Education greatly broadened the definition of sexual harassment to include verbal conduct that is simply unwelcome. Out of fear of federal investigations, universities are now applying that standard, defining unwelcome speech as harassment, not just to sex, but to race, religion, and veteran status as well. Everyone is supposed to rely upon his or her own subjective feelings to decide whether a comment by a professor or a fellow student is unwelcome, and therefore grounds for a harassment claim. Emotional reasoning is now accepted as evidence. If our universities are teaching students that their emotions can be used effectively as weapons, or at least as evidence in administrative proceedings, then they are teaching students to nurture a kind of hypersensitivity that will lead them into countless drawn-out conflicts in college and beyond. Schools may be training students in thinking styles that will damage their careers and friendships, along with their mental health. Fortune-telling and trigger warnings. Burns defines fortune-telling as anticipating that things will turn out badly and feeling convinced that your prediction is an already established fact. Leahy, Holland, and McGinn define it as predicting the future negatively or seeing potential danger in an everyday situation. The recent spread of demands for trigger warnings on reading assignments with provocative content is an example of fortune-telling. The idea that words, or smells, or any sensory input can trigger searing memories of past trauma and intense fear that it may be repeated has been around at least since World War I, when psychiatrists began treating soldiers for what is now called post-traumatic stress disorder. But explicit trigger warnings are believed to have originated much more recently on message boards in the early days of the internet. Trigger warnings became particularly prevalent in self-help and feminist forums, where they allowed readers who suffered from traumatic events like sexual assault to avoid graphic content that might trigger flashbacks or panic attacks. Search engine trends indicate that the phrase broke into mainstream use online at around 2011, spiked in 2014, and reached an all-time high in 2015. The use of trigger warnings on campus appears to have followed a similar trajectory. Seemingly overnight, students at universities across the country began demanding that their professors issue warnings before covering materials that might evoke a negative emotional response. In 2013, a task force composed of administrators, students, recent alumni, and one faculty member at Oberlin College in Ohio released an online resource guide for faculty, subsequently retracted in the face of faculty pushback, that included a list of topics warranting trigger warnings. These topics included classism and privilege, among many others. The task force recommended that materials that might trigger negative reactions among students be avoided altogether unless they contribute directly to course goals, and suggested that works that were too important to avoid be made optional. It's hard to imagine how novels illustrating classism and privilege could provoke or reactivate the kind of trigger of terror that is typically associated in PTSD. Rather, trigger warnings are sometimes demanded for a long list of ideas and attitudes that some students find politically offensive in the name of preventing other students from being harmed. This is an example of what psychologists call motivated reasoning. We spontaneously generate arguments for conclusions we want to support. Once you find something hateful, it is easy to argue that exposure to the hateful things could traumatize some other people. You believe that you know how others will react and that their reaction could be devastating. Preventing that devastation becomes a moral obligation for the whole community. Books for which students have called publicly for trigger warnings within the past couple of years include Virginia Woolf's Miss Dollory at Rutgers for suicidal inclinations, and Ovid's Metamorphoses at Columbia for sexual assault. Jeannie Suk's New Yorker essay described the difficulties of teaching rape law in the age of trigger warnings. Some students, she wrote, have pressured their professors to avoid teaching the subject in order to protect themselves and their classmates from potential distress. Suk compares this to trying to teach a medical student who is training to be a blood surgeon but has fear that he'll become distressed if he sees or handles blood. Rutgers? Sorry, my pronunciation might be bad. However, there is a deeper problem with trigger warnings. According to the most basic tenets of psychology, the very idea of helping people with anxiety disorders avoid the things they fear is misguided. A person who is trapped in an elevator during a power outage may panic and think she is going to die. That frightening experience can change neural connections in her amygdala, leading to an elevator phobia. If you want this woman to retain her fear for life, you should help her avoid elevators. But if you want to help her return to normalcy, you should take your cues from Ivan Pavlov and guide her through a process known as exposure therapy. You might start by asking the woman to merely look at an elevator from a distance, standing in a building lobby perhaps, until her apprehension begins to subside. If nothing bad happens while she's standing in the lobby, if the fear is not reinforced, then she will begin to learn a new association. Elevators are not dangerous. This reduction in fear during exposure is called habituation. Then on subsequent days, you might ask her to get closer, and on later days to push the call button, and eventually to step in and go up one floor. This is how the amygdala can get rewired again to associate a previously feared situation with safety or normalcy. Students who call for trigger warnings may be correct that some of their peers are harboring memories of trauma that could be reactivated by course readings, but they are wrong to try to prevent such reactivations. Students with PTSD should of course get treatment, but they should not try to avoid normal life with its many opportunities for habituation. Classroom discussions are safe places to be exposed to incidental reminders of trauma, such as the word violate. A discussion of violence is unlikely to be followed by actual violence, so it is a good way to help students change the associations that are causing them discomfort. And they'd better get their habituation done in college because the world beyond college will be far less willing to accommodate requests for trigger warnings and opt-outs. The expansive use of trigger warnings may also foster unhealthy mental habits in the vastly larger group of students who do not suffer from PTSD or other anxiety disorders. People acquire their fears not just from their own experiences, but from social learnings as well. If everyone around you acts as though something is dangerous, elevators, certain neighborhoods, novels depicting racism, then you are at risk of acquiring that fear as well. The psychiatrist Sarah Roff pointed this out last year in an online article for the Chronicle of Higher Education. One of my biggest concerns about trigger warnings, Roff wrote, is that they will apply not just to those who have experienced trauma, but to all students, creating an atmosphere in which they are encouraged to believe that there is something dangerous or damaging about discussing difficult aspects of history. The new climate is slowly being institutionalized and is affecting what can be said in the classroom, even as a basis for discussion or debate. In an article published last year by Inside Higher Ed, 7 humanities professors wrote that their trigger warning movement was already having a chilling effect on their teachings and pedagogy. Pedagogy? I think it's pedagogy. They reported their colleagues receiving phone calls from deans and other administrators investigating students' complaints that they have included triggering material in their courses with or without warnings. A trigger warning, they wrote, serves as a guarantee that students will not experience unexpected discomfort and implies that if they do, a contract has been broken. When students come to expect trigger warnings for any material that makes them uncomfortable, the easiest way for faculty to stay out of trouble is to avoid materials that might upset the most sensitive students in the class. Magnification, labeling, and microaggressions. Burns defines magnification as exaggerating the importance of things, and Leahy, Holland, and McGinn define labeling as assigning global negative traits to yourself and others. The recent collegiate trend of uncovering allegedly racist, sexist, classist, or otherwise discriminatory microaggressions doesn't incidentally teach students to focus on smaller accidental slights. It's, is it pedagogy? Oh, sorry, maybe pedagogy. Its purpose is to get students to focus on them and then relabel the people who have made such remarks as aggressors. Hold on, that's a really important paragraph. We're going to read that one more time. Sorry, because I got interrupted. Burns defines magnification as exaggerating the importance of things, and Leahy, Holland, and McGinn define labeling as assigning global negative traits to yourself and others. The recent collegiate trend of uncovering allegedly racist, sexist, classist, or otherwise discriminatory microaggressions doesn't incidentally teach students to focus on small or accidental slights. Its purpose is to get students to focus on them and then relabel the people who have made such remarks as aggressors. The term microaggression originated in the 1970s and referred to subtle, often unconscious racist affronts. The definition has expanded in recent years to include anything that can be perceived as discriminatory on virtually any basis. For example, in 2013, a student group at UCLA staged a sit-in during a class taught by Vol Rust, an education professor. The group read a letter aloud expressing their concerns about the campus's hostility towards students of color. Although Rust was not explicitly named, the group quite clearly criticized his teaching as microaggressive. In the course of correcting his students' grammar and spelling, Rust had noted that a student had wrongly capitalized the first letter of the word indigenous. Lowercasing the capital I was an insult to the student and her ideology, the group claimed. Even joking about microaggressions can be seen as an aggression, warranting punishment. Last fall, Omar Mahmoud, a student at the University of Michigan, wrote a satirical column for a conservative student publication, the Michigan Review, poking fun at what he saw as a campus tendency to perceive microaggressions in just about anything. Mahmoud, I'm not sure. Mahmoud, I'll pronounce it both ways. Mahmoud, was also employed at the campus's newspaper, the Michigan Daily. The Daily's editor said that the way Mahmoud had satirically mocked the experiences of fellow Daily contributors and minority communities on campus created a conflict of interest. The Daily terminated Mahmoud after he Muhammad. Is there like a way to pronounce? I'm not sure. The Daily terminated Mahmoud after he described the incident of two websites, the College Fix and the Daily Caller. A group of women later vandalized Mahmoud's doorway with eggs, hot dogs, gum, and notes with messages such as "Everyone hates you, you violent prick." When speech comes to be seen as a form of violence, vindictive protectiveness can justify a hostile and perhaps even violent response. This is a really good article. Holy shit, there are so many parallels between this article and what happens online. Somebody like Total Biscuit, because I'm too lazy to do it, but I've kind of been providing stories, right? You could write an article on top of this one and provide like exact parallels to online things between all of these things, right? Somebody says something making fun of something else, and then people like go way over the board and how they outrage against it. Like this has happened to so many fucking people on the internet, this is a really interesting article. Sorry. In March, the student government at Ithaca College in upstate New York went so far as to propose the creation of an anonymous microaggression reporting system. Student sponsors envisioned some forms of disciplinary action against oppressors engaged in belittling speech. One of the sponsors of the program said that while not every instance will require trial or some kind of harsh punishment, she wanted the program to be record-keeping but with impact. Surely people make subtle or thinly veiled racist or sexist remarks on college campuses, and it is right for students to raise questions and initiate discussions about such cases. But the increased focus on microaggressions coupled with the endorsements of emotional reasoning is a formula for a constant state of outrage, even toward well-meaning speakers trying to engage in genuine discussion. What are we doing to our students if we encourage them to develop extra thin skin in the years just before they leave the cocoon of adult protection and enter the workforce? Would they not be better prepared to flourish if we taught them to question their own emotional reactions and to give people the benefit of the doubt? Teaching students to catastrophize and have zero tolerance. Burns defines catastrophizing is the word, right? Catastrophizing as a kind of magnification that turns commonplace negative events into nightmarish monsters. Oh, like the shirt thing. This article is so good. I really, really, really like this article. I'm really glad we're reading this. I'm glad that I'm reading this. I don't know if I would have read this in my free time. This is a really good article. Holy shit. I really like the way that it's set up, between referencing the different thoughts and the definitions of the psychologists that have published work, and then talking about how each of these things in colleges relate to the, this is a sick article. I've never read anything by The Atlantic before, but this is really good. I really like the way this article is set up. Holy shit. I'm sorry. Normally when I read things like journalistic shit, it's just all whatever bullshit and just sensationalism and whatever, but this is like really, really well done. I really, really appreciate this article. Sorry. Okay. Burns defines catastrophizing as a kind of magnification that turns commonplace negative events into nightmarish monsters. Leahy, Holland, and McGinn define it as believing that what has happened or will happen is so awful and unbearable that you won't be able to stand it. Requests for trigger warnings involve catastrophizing, but this way of thinking colors other areas of campus thought as well. Catastrophizing rhetoric about physical danger is employed by campus administrators more commonly than you might think, sometimes, it seems, with cynical ends in mind. For instance, last year, and it gives examples, and it gives real-life examples of stories that have happened when it talks about everything, too. For instance, last year, administrators at Bergen Community College in New Jersey suspended Francis Schmidt, a professor, after he posted a picture of his daughter on his Google Plus account. The photo showed her in a yoga pose, wearing a t-shirt that read, "I will take what is mine with fire and blood," a quote from the HBO show Game of Thrones. Schmidt had filed a grievance against the school about 2 months earlier after being passed over for a sabbatical. The quote was interpreted as a threat by a campus administrator who received a notification after Schmidt posted the picture. It had been sent automatically to a whole group of contacts. According to Schmidt, a Bergen security official present at a subsequent meeting between administrators and Schmidt thought that that the word fire could refer to AK-47s. Then there was the 8-year legal saga at Valdosta State University in Georgia, where a student was expelled for protesting the construction of a parking garage by posting an alleged threatening collage on Facebook. The collage described the proposed structure as a memorial parking garage, a joke referring to a claim by the university president that the garage would be part of his legacy. The president interpreted the collage as a threat against his life. It should be remember how Anita Sarkeesian, anytime somebody makes a comment online about Anita or Brianna Wu, how they always interpret it as an actual death threat. Remember when she's like, I've had to cancel speeches because of bomb threats, right? This is the same kind of shit, right? There's infinite online parallel, not infinite, right? There are so many online parallels to every fucking topic that we've gone through, right? It's insane. It's so insane. Holy shit. It should be no surprise that students are exhibiting similar sensitivity. At the University of Central Florida in 2013, for example, Hyung Hil Il Jung, is it actually pronounced Jung or is it Young? I don't know if the J is pronounced there. Hyung Il Young, an accounting instructor, was suspended after a student reported that Young had made a threatening comment during a review session. Young explained to the Orlando Sentinel that the material he was reviewing was difficult, and he noticed the pained look on students' faces, so he made a joke. It looks like you guys are being slowly suffocated by these questions. He recalled saying, "Am I on a killing spree or what?" After the student reported Young's comment, a group of nearly 20 others emailed the UCF administration explaining that the comment had clearly been made in jest. Nevertheless, UCF suspended Young from all university duties and demanded that he obtained written certification from a mental health professional that he was not a threat to himself or the university community before he would be allowed to return to campus. All of these actions teach a common lesson. Smart people do, in fact, overreact to innocuous speech, make mountains out of molehills, and seek punishment for anyone whose words make anyone else feel uncomfortable. Mental filtering and disinvitation season. As Burns defines it, mental filtering is picking out a negative detail in any situation and dwelling on it exclusively, thus perceiving that the whole situation is negative. Leahy, Holland, and McGinn refer to this as negative filtering, which they define as focusing almost exclusively on the negatives and seldom noticing the positives. When applied to campus life, mental filtering allows for simple-minded demonization. Students and faculty members in large numbers modeled this cognitive distortion during 2014's disinvitation season. That's the time of year, usually early spring, when commencement speakers are announced and when students and professors demand that some of the speakers be disinvited because of things they have said or done. According to data compiled by the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education since 2000, at least 240 campaigns have been launched at U.S. universities to prevent public figures from appearing at campus events. Most of them have occurred since 2009. I was invited to be on, me and Kyle were going to be on one of the early Hunger Games that they do with DayZ, and I was disinvited to the Hunger Games, even though it had been like a year or two since, I don't even remember what it was, one of the things that I'd been involved in, right? It had been a year or two, but the people, one of the sponsors hosting the event didn't want me invited to the DayZ Hunger Games because of some stuff that I had been involved in online, even though it was like, I feel like we were at least a year past it, and it seemed like it had no relation to anything, but I remember this happening to me. I'm sure you could probably find countless other examples of this happening online as well, where people are disinvited to things because of shit like that happening in the past. Consider two of the most prominent disinvitation targets of 2014. Former U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice and the International Monetary Fund's managing director Christine Lagarde. Rice was the first black female Secretary of State. Lagarde was the first woman to become finance minister of a G8 country and the first female head of the International Monetary Fund. Both speakers could have been seen as highly successful role models for female students, and Rice for minority students as well. But the critics, in effect, discounted any possibility of something positive coming from those speeches. Members of an academic community should, of course, be free to raise questions about Rice's role in the Iraq War or to look skeptically at the IMF's policies, but should dislike of part of a person's record disqualify her altogether from sharing her perspectives? If campus culture conveys the idea that visitors must be pure, with resumes that never offend generally left-leaning campus sensibilities, then higher education will have taken a further step towards intellectual homogeneity? Homogeneity? Hold on, I have to see how to pronounce this. One sec. Homogeneity. I'm not sure. Fuck. I'll say homogeneity. Towards intellectual homogeneity and the creation of an environment in which students rarely encounter diverse viewpoints. And universities will have reinforced the belief that it's okay to filter out the positive. If students graduate believing that they can learn nothing from people they dislike or from those with whom they disagree, we will have done them a great intellectual disservice. So this is like earlier when I was talking about like if I had like a doctor that had a belief that I disagreed with, like I wouldn't stop going to the doctor just because we disagree on something, right? Oh fuck! This article says so much. I'm circle jerking really hard right now. I'm sorry. I know I said not to do that, but I'm sorry. Homogeneity? Maybe. Homogeneity? I'm not sure. What can we do now? Attempts to shield students from words, ideas, and people that might cause them emotional discomfort are bad for the students. They are bad for the workplace, which will be mired in unending litigation if student expectations of safety are carried forward. And they are bad for American democracy, which is already paralyzed by worsening partisanship. When the ideas, values, and speech of the other side are seen not just as wrong, but as willfully aggressive toward innocent victims, it is hard to imagine the kind of mutual respect, negotiation, and compromise that are needed to make politics a positive sum game. Rather than trying to protect students from words and ideas that they will inevitably encounter, colleges should do all they can to equip students to thrive in a world full of words and ideas that they cannot control. One of the great truths taught by Buddhism and Stoicism, Hinduism, and many other traditions is that you can never achieve happiness by making the world conform to your desires, but you can master your desires and habits of thought. This, of course, is the goal of cognitive behavioral therapy. With this in mind, here are some steps that might help reverse the tide of bad thinking on campus. The biggest single step in the right direction does not involve faculty or university administrators, but rather the federal government, which should release universities from their fear of unreasonable investigation and sanctions by the Department of Education. Congress should define peer-on-peer harassment according to the Supreme Court's definition in the 1990 case Davis v. Monroe County Board of Education. The Davis standard holds that a single comment or thoughtless remark by a student does not equal harassment. Harassment requires a pattern of objectively offensive behavior by one student that interferes with another student's access to education. Establishing the Davis standard would help eliminate universities' impulse to police their students' speech so carefully. Universities themselves should try to raise consciousness about the need to balance freedom of speech with the need to make all students feel welcome. Talking openly about such conflicting but important values is just a sort of challenging exercise that any diverse but tolerant community must learn to do. Restrictive speech codes should be abandoned. Universities should also officially and strongly discourage trigger warnings. They should. I would like to say that even before this article came out, everything that I've ever read, if you ever Google trigger warnings, I'm trying to do this with one hand. Trigger warnings, psychology or psychologists. I've never seen a psychologist that has approved trigger warnings. Everything has always been. Everything that any psychologist I've ever seen written has always been negative. I don't know if maybe there are some psychologists that support them, but I've never heard it before in my life. And that was before I'd ever read this article. Universities should also officially and strongly discourage trigger warnings. They should endorse the American Association of University Professors report on these warnings, which notes the presumption that students need to be protected rather than challenged in a classroom is at once infantilizing and anti-intellectual. Professors should be free to use trigger warnings if they choose to do so, but by explicitly discouraging the practice, universities would help fortify the faculty against student requests for such warnings. Finally, universities should rethink the skills and values they want to impart to their incoming students. At present, many freshman-oriented programs try to raise student sensitivity to a nearly impossible level, teaching students to avoid giving unintentional offense is a worthy goal, especially when the students come from many different cultural backgrounds, but students should also be taught how to live in a world full of potential offenses. Why not teach incoming students how to practice cognitive behavioral therapy? Given high and rising rates of mental illness, this simple step would be among the most humane and supportive thing a university could do. The cost and time commitment would be kept low. A few group training sessions could be supplemented by websites or apps, but the outcome could pay dividends in many ways. For example, a shared vocabulary about reasoning, common distortions, and the appropriate use of evidence to draw conclusions would facilitate critical thinking and real debate. It would also tone down the perpetual state of outrage that seems to engulf some colleges these days, allowing students' minds to open more widely to new ideas and new people. A greater commitment to formal, public debate on campus and to the assembly of a more politically diverse faculty would further serve that goal. Thomas Jefferson, upon founding the University of Virginia, said, "This institution will be based on the illimitable freedom of the human mind. For here, we are not afraid to follow truth wherever it may lead, nor to tolerate any error, so long as reason is left free to combat it." We believe that this is still and will always be the best attitude for American universities. Faculty, administrators, students, and the federal government all have a role to play in restoring universities to their historic mission. And then this lists some common cognitive disorders. There's only 12 of these, and we're at the end of the article. We'll read these, I don't mind. A partial list from Robert L. Leahy, Stephen J.F. Holland, and Lada K. McGinn's treatment plans and interventions for depression and anxiety disorders in 2012. Mind reading. You assume that you know what people think without having sufficient evidence of their thoughts. He thinks I'm a loser. So this, we can point things to like shit Reddit says, right, in all of these. So when somebody goes online and says something like, ooh, this guy likes 14-year-olds, this dude's a fucking pedophile. And somebody's like, I mean, liking a 14-year-old with a hot tits and ass doesn't necessarily make you a pedophile. I mean, it's pretty fucked up to like a 14-year-old, but not necessarily a pedophile, right? And then somebody's like, oh, that guy's a pedophile. What? How would you even make that jump? You don't fucking know that. Why would you even say that, right? Or if somebody on Reddit makes a racist joke or a misogynistic joke, people make the full jump. What do they always say on Reddit? Says like, oh, this guy's just a member of Stormfront. Or, oh, like this guy's a misogynist and hates women or whatever, right? It seems racist because it is racist. Not finding a certain race attractive. You mean because of the color of their skin or the content of their character? It seems like outward presentation of the former leads to an assumption about the latter in determining attractiveness. Yes, I call racism on this one because you don't find a certain race attractive. Seems like the jumps, like holy shit. So they're race like this, right? You can find. Oh look, and here's even a Stormfront one. Nothing needs to be said here, right? Fortune telling. You predict the future negatively. Things will get worse or there's danger ahead. I'll fail that exam or I won't get the job. You could technically find an example of this in when we ban like fat people hate and shit. Well, if a whole bunch of fat people see these subreddits, like they'll kill themselves or shit. That's kind of a stretch, but I can't think of anything better off the top of my head. Catastrophizing. You believe that what has happened or will happen will be so awful and unbearable that you won't be able to stand it. It would be terrible if I failed. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Labeling. You assign global negative traits to yourself and others. I'm undesirable or he's a rotten person. I mean, labeling happens all the time and really in everywhere. That's not just an SRS thing. Discounting positives. You claim that the positive things you or others do are trivial. That's what wives are supposed to do, so it doesn't count when she's nice to me. Or those successes were easy, so they don't matter. Oh, people do this to me all the time. People will say things like, oh, well, like, you're a horrible person. And I'll say something like, well, I mean, like, I've done good things before too, like this, like charity work and whatnot. And then people will say things like, oh, well, you only do charity just so that you have that as an excuse to fall back on. Can I actually find this in... Hold on, I'm typing with one hand again. You should be proud of that instead of bragging about that one time you did charity instead of all like those rich assholes. Fuck, I might not be able to find it. But I mean, people have seen this. Oh, yeah, this guy follows me around every subreddit. 3 years ago you did charity, and you probably only did it once. You can always point towards something to prove your decency. Like, yeah, okay. Negative filtering. You focus almost exclusively on the negatives and seldom notice the positives. Look at all the people who don't like me. Yeah, well, I'll just read the rest of these. Overgeneralizing. You perceive a global pattern of negatives on the basis of a single incident. This generally happens to me. I seem to fail at a lot of things. Dichotomous thinking. You view events or people in all or nothing terms. I get rejected by everyone, or it was a complete waste of time. Blaming. You focus on the other person as a source of your negative feeling. This dichotomous thinking happens a lot with people. You view events or people in all or nothing terms. I get rejected by everyone, or it was a complete waste of time. I think this is actually a really big one. I don't think anything is a complete waste of time. I say this a lot on stream. Even if you fail something or you do something bad, like, it's still a good learning experience, in my opinion. But blaming. You focus on the other person as the source of your negative feelings, and you refuse to take responsibility for changing yourself. She's to blame for the way I feel now, or my parents caused all my problems. What if? You keep asking a series of questions about what if. Something happens and you fail to be satisfied with any of the answers. Yeah, but what if I get anxious? Or what if I can't catch my breath? Emotional reasoning. You let your feelings guide your interpretation of reality. I feel depressed, therefore my marriage is not working out. Inability to disconfirm. You reject any evidence or argument that might contradict your negative thoughts. For example, when you have the thought, I'm unlovable, you reject as irrelevant any evidence that people like you. Consequently? What's the difference between consequently or consequentially? Your thoughts cannot be refuted. That's not the real issue. There are deeper problems. There are other factors. All right. Wow, we read... Wow, thanks for resubbing, Hope's Anchor. All right. Here, I'll post this article link in chat. One sec. Okay, I'm sorry. This is the last one. This is much, much shorter. This article is very short. We'll read this and then I'll go play Hearthstone, okay? To give service to the other side of the argument, somebody linked this and said, for the case of intellectual honesty, we should read the other side. So this is somebody from Vox.com. I don't know if this is part of like the Gawker network or whatever. It kind of looks like it from the page. Is it actually true? I don't know. Hold on. I don't know. Whatever. We'll read this anyway, okay? I was a liberal adjunct, or the name of this article is, I was a liberal adjunct professor. Adjunct? Professor. My liberal students didn't scare me at all. I was a liberal adjunct professor at a large university until 2013, and my liberal students never scared me at all. I covered sensitive topics in my courses, including rape, capital punishment, female genital mutilation, and disputed accounts of mass atrocities. Our classroom debates were contentious and forced students to examine their own biases. I kept an on-call list that pressured students to participate actively in those discussions. I did not use trigger warnings. I never had any complaints. I bring up my own experiences as a reminder that if the plural of anecdote isn't data, the singular of it sure as hell isn't either. The fact that I enjoyed my time teaching doesn't tell you anything about the state of education in America, and neither does the fact that the pseudonymous pseudonymous. I don't know where the accent goes. Pseudonymous. That the author who used the pseudonym of this Vox article is a liberal professor who is terrified of his liberal students. And yet the response to his article, which as of this writing has now been shared more than 190,000 times on Facebook, shows it has struck a nerve. This is something people are genuinely concerned about, enough that the thoughts of an unidentified man from the Midwest feels like a revelation, as if some secret truth everyone suspected has finally been exposed. In other words, it's truthy. It offers a conclusion that feels as if it should be true, even though it isn't accompanied by much more in the way of actual evidence. If, in this case, the truthy conclusion is that the rise of identity politics is doing real harm, that this new kind of discourse, whether you call it identity politics or call it culture or political correctness, is not just annoying or upsetting to the people it targets, but a danger to academic freedom and therefore an actual substantive problem to be addressed. You're a professor. Why are you scared of your students? In fact, a closer read of the article shows that the actual problem the professor faces isn't the rise of scary new breed of students. Students, after all, have been complaining about their professors and just about everything ever since time immemorial. Rather, if university faculty are feeling disempowered in their classrooms, that's because they do, in fact, have less power at work. The shrinking pool of tenure-track jobs and the corresponding rise in the number of poorly paid adjuncts means many university teachers are in a precarious position right now. The American Association of University Professors reports that 76% of faculty across all United States institutions are adjuncts. Non-tenured contract positions that universities can terminate or not renew at will. Those uncertain jobs are also poorly paid. A study from the U.S. House of Representatives last year found that a majority of adjuncts live below the poverty line and that they rarely have access to health, retirement, or other benefits. Tenure-track jobs are comparatively rare, and even tenure itself may be becoming a political target. Wisconsin Governor and GOP presidential hopeful Scott Walker is pushing legislation that would weaken tenure protections for state university professors. That means that, as Vox's anonymous correspondent wrote in his article, the academic job market is brutal. Teachers who are not tenured or tenure-track faculty members have no right to due process before being dismissed, and there's a mile-long line of applicants eager to take their place. In that context, it's hardly surprising that non-tenured university lecturers will take an extremely conservative approach to any perceived threat to their job security. As a liberal professor wrote, in this type of environment, boat rocking isn't just dangerous, it's suicidal, and so teachers limit their lessons to things that they know won't upset anybody. That is a real issue, with real implications for education, for academic freedom, but pinning the blame on students' embrace of identity politics is a mistake. If adjuncts and junior faculty members feel insecure enough to censor their teachings on work, then that's a problem in their relationship with the universities, not in their relationship with their students. Indeed, in that academic environment, it wouldn't matter if liberal identity politics disappeared tomorrow. Some students will always be unhappy about something, and if faculty is this nervous, then they will influence their teaching, that will influence their teaching. Indeed, the article notes that the only actual complaint the professor ever received was from a conservative student angry at his communistal tendencies because he refused to blame poor black homeowners for the 2008 financial crisis. This isn't counterpoint. Yeah, I don't think this article has much to do with what we just read. I feel like this is like a pretty off thing. This person is arguing that the teacher that said he was scared, his issue is more that he doesn't have tenure rather than students are being crazy. And then she's trying to extremely downplay the impact that students have on teachers being scared. But I feel like this article supplied so much but so many stories that actually happened that kind of discredit. I feel like it's hard to take this article, assuming all of the stories are true and not made up, and most of these we've heard of before. I feel like it's hard to read this article with all of its examples and then go to this one and say, oh, no, students being like crazy sensitive, that's not a problem at all. I feel like I could read the rest of this article, but I feel like it's not going to make that point. Of course, an article about the employment colleges for today's budding academics probably wouldn't have been shared 190,000 times on Facebook. The professor's article didn't inspire columns in the National Review or the Wall Street Journal because their conservative authors are so concerned about the working conditions of adjunct professors. Rather, the article garnered so much attention because it seems like it's raising new evidence that identity politics is a bad thing. Not just a kind of discourse that some people dislike, but by identifying real harm. In January, liberal writer Jonathan Chait took a stab at doing something similar in New York Magazine, critiquing political correctness by claiming it was an attempt to expand freedom for the oppressed by eliminating it for their enemies, and that such efforts were doomed to undermine the freedom they sought to protect. And now the Vox article seems to suggest that the harm is to academic freedom. Even the professors are scared. These kids today with their identity politics are threatening the academy. It's not surprising that people are eager to grasp at such conclusions, because without some kind of real harm to point to, critiques of identity politics collapses in on itself. As Matt Yurs, I can pronounce his name, wrote in January, the term identity politics is generally used to refer to feminists or anti-racist critiques, but that assumes that traditionally marginalized groups are the only people with an identity. The implication of this usage, Yurs wrote, is that somehow an identity is something only women or African American or perhaps LGBT people have. White men just have ideas about politics that spring from a realm of pure reason with concerns that are by definition universal. Citing the supposed threat to the academy is another way to claim that arguments against identity and pure reason are trying to protect identity politics are bad is the wrong reason. Rather, it's focused on a universal system that treats. Okay, I don't think this has much to do with. Okay. All right, I'm disconnecting the NPR mic. We're going back to normal microphone times. How are we feeling? I think we play video games now, right? Oh god, what did I just click? Is that like downloading some shit? What? What the fuck are we even... I'll take your point and re-speak it seriously. I think Destiny doesn't champion his claim of not living in an echo chamber very well at all. Why do you say that, Apex? Are we gonna go fully down this route? Okay, I don't do the echo chamber thing. I read plenty of fucking, I read a fair, I don't read as much anymore because a lot of the rhetoric has gotten old, and usually I can predict a lot of the threads in here, right? If I listen to Rush Limbaugh or Glenn Beck, I'm mainly just doing it recreationally. I already know what I'm going to hear when I get on the show. I'm not going to lie, I really don't read this subreddit as much anymore because it's very obvious to tell where all of the threads are going, such that I don't really need to read these anymore. I feel like I understand. Maybe if there was like a better point. If you disagree with me on anything, I invite you to go ahead and I'll Skype anybody right now. If you disagree with me, Apex or whatever, or you think I don't entertain like another side of the debate, then this is your time to shine, dog. If you want to argue about it right now on TeamSpeak or Skype, let's fucking do it. If you want to, right now, okay? Your mic was so much better before? Yeah, I know. Destiny's thoughts on Trump? I'm actually liking Trump more and more as it goes on. I'm kind of scared. He's pretty funny. He would be a horrible president, but... Destiny, I don't know your own personal time. Only my perception of you on stream, so I could be wrong, but my impression of you, and I think you'll find this hard to disagree, but you're pretty hyper-aggressive of opinions you don't agree with. That's hardly an inviting stance to entertain other ideas. I'll consider entertain any other ideas, but of course I'm going to call people out on things that I find retarded. It might not be like the most conducive way to converse people, but like this stream isn't supposed to be this isn't like we're not supposed to be like an educational stream where we have academic discourse on a daily basis. Like I like calling people retarded. It makes me feel better about myself. But I'll seriously engage anybody that disagrees with me, right? Like I've done this time and time again. What? How can you say that you haven't seen this? It's like sure, like maybe I don't do it on stream often, right? But whereas like all these people with these huge fucking arguments that I've gotten into with people, right, remember when there was that one guy that tried to push that trickle down economics and all that shit, right? Like I get into huge arguments with people that I don't agree with.
Oh fuck, somewhere back here. Yeah, and the credit cards thing, right? Like I get into huge arguments, right? And we source everything out, and we have all these discussions. Like, I'll do this shit. I don't mind talking about it to people that I don't agree with. And then this guy about all like the minimum wage shit. Like, I don't mind getting into discussions about Right? These are all decent discussions, I would say. Oh god, he deleted his account. Rip. Yeah, but these were all huge discussions with people that disagreed. Look, and I even get downvoted in some of these, like, but nobody responded. Like, one of the reasons why it seems like I do the echo chamber thing, this really bothers me. When I go through a lot of work to make a point, and then nobody has, like, a real response, and then they just, like, downvote, or they say things like, oh, Destiny, you're so edgy, right? Like, this is probably, like, one of my, and people do this all the time. It's very easy to say shit, like, it's very easy to say shit, and then, like, never be brave enough to, like, state your own opinion. Like, I'll take it as a fair rebuttal, though. I still think the stream comes off as way too edgy for the subject matter at times. Perhaps it's unfair. But yeah, I mean, I do come off as edgy. I'm not going to deny that. But I'll give anybody that disagrees with me. I don't know how to do this any harder, other than maybe like not being as mean to people I disagree with. I guess I could do that. But like anytime somebody disagrees with me, I'll always invite somebody. If they want to defend their opinion on voice, if they want to like talk it out, I'll always take it up. Right? Where was the guy? This guy making the reverse argument. This guy was trying to make the whole reverse racism is never a real thing, right? You might want to check your ad hominems. Do you think I'm being ad hominem? Do you think my argument is fair? Sure. I'm 100% up for discussing it on stream. And I've never, and every single, and like, there's like this trend of things that happens. Every time I invite somebody to talk about it on stream, right? I'm not trying to swallow my own fucking load, because it sounds like it, but usually I'm right? Usually when I have a discussion with somebody, usually the other person is wrong, okay? And it's not just because I'm super smart or blah, 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 or I'm not trying to say that, but usually when I have a strong opinion on something, usually that opinion has been forged in the fires of the fucking internet debate club and lots of reading. Like, it's very rare, especially these days, it's very rare that I put out an opinion that I have no backing for. I just like, this thing. Like, usually, most of the opinions that I put out have come after fucking article after article of fucking shit, right? Because if I argue these things, especially against you fucks on stream, usually I have to defend most of my opinions with sources, right? So most things that I talk about now, I'm sourcing out, like, everything that I've said, right? Everything that I'm saying is, like, comes from different sources, and, like, all these, like, they're not even, like, I'm not just making shit up, right? And then every time I have a discussion with people on Skype, then people are like, well, Destiny, why do you only pull the retarded people that you know you can win a debate against on Skype? Like, good job, you pulled what am I supposed to do? Like, what the fuck?
Hey Sturban the Mervyn D. Bonnell, the 7th King of America. I had a dream last night where I was a white female SJW, and you were raping me while I was screaming about being triggered. It was so edgy that I woke up with my wrist slit. Dream diary time.
Someone who's disagreed on stream before. I think it's worth saying that a lot of people have a really hard time talking in front of thousands of people on the internet. Yeah, sure, that's possible. Yeah, that's entirely possible. I can't do anything about that, unfortunately, but I do understand that that's definitely possible. The video of me arguing with Sky, that was just bad on me. I was way too emotional going into that. Sometimes I get like, this is like my fault, and this is just me, this is my immaturity as a human being, because I'm a very passionate person, right? I'm a very passionate person, I'm a very opinionated person, and if I believe in something, I'm usually very, I don't want to say like invested in the belief to the point where I don't ever want to change my mind, but I'm invested to the point where I really fucking believe that what I'm arguing is right. I never ever ever waste my time arguing a point that I don't know much about. And you've heard me say this on stream a lot, right? For instance, I'm pro-life. But that's something that I've never really brought up on stream before, because it's like that argument is so like, it's so hard to form a really strong opinion, and I'm not strongly pro-life. That's why I don't tweet a whole bunch of like anti-abortion things. That's why I don't retweet, because that's a really hard thing, right? And I never talked about my like my ideas on like capital punishment. There are a lot of things where people will ask me like, what do you think about this? And I'll be like, I don't really know. Like, I just don't have a strong opinion on it. I have to think about it more. Like, I say that a lot, right? But if I have a belief that I'm willing to argue about, then I'm very fucking passionate about it, and I've done reading and research, and like I'm gonna argue about it. You better believe I'm gonna fucking hold on to that argument, because I'm not just gonna sit here and be like, oh well, I believe X, and you're like, well, I think you're wrong. It's like, oh well, I guess I don't believe it, huh? Like why would I even bother espousing an ideal that I don't have any kind of backing for, you know? So sometimes I go into arguments like really fucking heated because I'm ready to like go for the throat. And I did that in the Sky debate, right? Which is why everybody said, or well, all of Sky, well, the Sky debate was bad because it turned into preaching to the choir, where all of Sky's fans thought that Sky was right, all of my fans thought that I was right, all of my fans said that Sky is retarded, and Total Biscuit just repeated what Destiny said, and then Sky believed him. All of Sky's fans say Destiny's just a retarded Spurg Lord who was screaming like a fucking infant child who was too stupid to realize how smart Sky and Civ were, and then Total Biscuit finally said the right things. Like, so it just turned into like there was too much screaming. I was way too heated on the inside the game when I went in and I made that comment to DJ Wheat, which has now destroyed my career in streaming. Like, that was me going on to a show where I was like preheated. I was like pre-pumped. I like went into the bar with like fucking 8 beers like already in my, like I pre-gamed that so hard and I went like ready to fucking go. Like, that was just bad on me. Yeah, that was just bad on me. Sorry. Somebody said that I banned people who I disagree with in chat. I never banned somebody. Like, this is an argument that people bring up against me all the time. Why do you even say that, Destiny? You always ban people. I don't ban you if you disagree with me in chat. I ban you if you act like a fucking retard. Like, if you say, like, if I'm playing, like, there are so many people in chat that have disagreed with me on things. Where's Derver at? Even Right to Bear Arms has disagreed with me on things. Like, there are plenty of people who've disagreed with plenty of things. Like, I've never banned these people ever. Like, it doesn't happen. But, like, if I'm saying something like, if we're arguing, and it's like, I really think that, you know, I really think that minimum wage is something that we need higher. And like somebody in chat is like, you're not even college dropout talking about economics. You're so fucking faggot retarded. And then like I IP ban that person. Then those people are always the ones that show up and like, why do you say that you entertain other opinions? All you do is ban people that disagree with you, Destiny. Right? Like, are you like real? Like 90% of the time, like there are times where I fucking rage ban people. Usually that happens when I'm playing like League or Hearthstone and somebody said some shit and they're like, Destiny, why do you? And then I ban them and I rage ban. I'll admit it, like I do fucking rage ban people. But when we're having an argument, it's very rare. I don't think I've ever like banned someone just for disagreeing with me, unless they like go hardcore fucking autism and start saying like the dumbest fucking things. Like, sorry. Have I ever thought about seeing a therapist? No, I don't think so. I haven't killed anybody yet. Maybe if it happens and I'm able to hide the body well enough, I'll consider it. How about Lizward? Lizward is a legit piece of shit. I have no qualms banning. I don't know how Lockheed's isn't banned either. I don't know why I haven't rebanned him, but... Okay, these microaggressions. Alright, are we good? So there's no one, so this is your opportunity, okay? Is there anybody that has anything that they severely disagree about, anything that we've talked about, that, I'm pretty sure Fat People Hate was banned for degrading and harassment. I mean... The problem is that ShitReddit says is engaged in almost every form of debauchery that these other subreddits have that have gotten banned, but it seems to be immune. That's one of the reasons why people get so upset. I don't know if you realize that or not. Fuck, dude. I don't wanna dig into this, right? Somebody made a guide on how to not get banned by me. And then this guy's like, brawlable? This is some quality top cake. This is exactly what Destiny does on a daily basis. Shit on people and attack their personality. This is creating an environment where being edgy as fuck, foregoing any... Like, but this is a guy who literally, like, follows me around on Reddit and tries to, like, shit on me personally. Like there was a thread about Teresa and all this shit, and then he like shows up and he's like, "Will you expand the post with all this shit, sad shit Destiny's done over the years, or is this the justification for him joining this retarded shit fest?" Like, you do realize Destiny wasn't involved in this at all until he decided to join the chat and stir shit up. I mean, that's not true at all, but. Alright, okay. So we're good. Can we just play Hearthstone? Can I just play some cards? One of the main reasons people don't stay around here is because of the abuse you give your chat. That's what I came to after asking a few of my friends why they don't watch you. I mean, it sounds kind of shitty to say, but I'm okay with that. Like, it's just not the kind of person I am. I'm never going to be the kind of person that sucks my chat off. Like, it's just never going to happen. It's just not the kind of person I am. I understand that there are some people that like to go to, like Hafu's chat is a good example. These aren't bad, but like Hafu's chat or Crip's chat where we bro fist everybody and like everybody's happy and everybody's cool and everybody loves each other and nobody's ever mean to anybody. But that's just not the kind of person I am. It's not the kind of comedy I do. It's not the kind of personality that I have. Like, if somebody's being fucking retarded, like calling them out is not only fun for the stream because it's usually entertaining, but it's also fun for me. Like, I get a personal kick out of it. Like, that's that insult-based humor. And being mean to people and being like an asshole, like I enjoy that, as mean as it sounds, right? I don't do it in real life, right? Well, I mean, like I don't do it in real life like waiters, like I wouldn't do it to like a stranger. But in terms of like people who, have ever been to, like my chat, like if you say something stupid or something that I think is really fucking stupid, I mean, like yeah, I'm gonna call you out on it. Like you guys are only here so that I have like a punching bag and can keep my sanity. You realize this, right? Like. I'm just kidding. Crepes Brofist is facetious? Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I feel like, this is kind of off. This is the last thing that I'll talk about. This is the last thing I talk about. Then we'll play games. Yeah, of course. I love you, Kirky. I love you very much. If you want to, Brozil, sure. That'll be our one discussion. That'll be our one Skype discussion. Sure thing, buddy. Send me a message. Never mind. I don't even want to get into this. I'm gonna just talk to Brosel and then we'll play the games. I always pay attention to you, Agik, too. Wow, thanks, Snorkels. What a nice guy. Destiny, seriously speaking, in gardening, plants can't grow...
I know you don't love me, Destiny, but you love my money, pee-pee.
Pretty much, Kasamba. Destiny, seriously speaking, in gardening, plants can't grow in the midst of weeds. Why is there an expectation that a mind can grow against depression and reminders of the terrible aspects of everyday life? Consider that in some career choices, there is no exposure to the outside world. It's a bubble aspect that allows growth in a certain field to flourish. I think that, like, and this kind of goes back to the whole babying kids in this goes back to babying kids in school, but there's something to be said for overcoming other things. Like, the kind of person that grows up in an environment where everything is encouraged and nothing is wrong and blah, 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 the kind of person that you get out of this environment is going to be far different than a person who emerges from a hostile environment or from an environment where they're constantly challenged and then they reinforce their own ideas through through opposition, through challenge, through overcoming obstacles. Like, the person that comes out of this is always going to be better than whatever this breeds. You have to understand that, right? That a person that goes through like, there might be a higher dropout rate or less fun involved or whatever, but the kind of person that has to overcome obstacles and then grow up and become a person having survived those challenges is always going to be better equipped to deal with life than the person who just goes to a happy think group who all hug and love each other and no one is ever bad or wrong or blah, 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 and then has to emerge into the real world, right? You have to understand that, right? That can't even be a point. Not necessarily. Some people just break from challenges. Then those people were never going to hack it in anything competitive anyway. If school breaks you, then go get an easy degree. Go fucking get some fucking some shit in, I don't want to say comp sci, but just go get like a fucking easy degree, go get a fucking easy 30, 40, 50 year job, and then that's it. That's all you want to do. If school breaks you, you're not cut to handle life. I don't know what to say. Like, if school is fucking your mind and it fucks you up and it breaks you, you just can't fucking handle it, then you can't. And going to some environment where everybody just sucks you off all day and you don't even have the fucking semen at the end of the night to fucking blow a load in front of your fucking computer screen because you're getting sucked off all day at school, and then you go out to the job market, like, why the fuck would anybody want to fucking hire you, you weak fucking piece of shit? You've never faced any kind of opposition in your life. You've never fucking had to stand up for yourself. You have no fucking self-esteem. You have no fucking ability to overcome or handle any obstacles ever.
Please
like,
get into it. Hearing you talk is far more entertaining than Algebra Stone. And I want to say, 90% of SJWs will never touch on class issues. This is simply because they are amongst the most privileged class of them all. Rich white women.
Like, you have to be able to, like, you have to learn how to deal with bad shit, right? I guess a lot of people don't have to. I guess if you're born into, like, a rich family, then you get a fucking easy job and you never have to worry about it. But, like, holy shit, dude. Like, you learn so much more getting shit on, and it I don't know, like, I was lucky in the way that I was raised, but I also had, like, I feel like I had enough, like, shitty stuff happen that it gives me, like, there's perspective that I've gotten from the bad jobs that I've worked, from the financial hardship that I've faced, from the horrible financial decisions that my parents have made, to the horrible financial life that I had when I was 14 to 16, right? My parents got, like, 6 fucking houses foreclosed in a row, like, literally, but those kinds of experiences shaped me and gave me experience and perspective that I would have never gotten, like, jerking off with a bunch of rich fucking friends and never doing anything, right? And there are things that I understand now that I'm vigilant about now, like financial responsibility and all of this shit that I would have never gotten or gotten as reinforced as hard if I hadn't come out of certain situations, right? That's how I feel personally. Maybe other people learn in different ways, but I mean, like, I feel like it's telling that a lot of the most inspirational stories that you hear are about people who come through or people who come up despite their circumstances and not necessarily because of it, right? Suffering hardships and enduring those hardships and then rising above them gives you tenacity, right? Which is important. You have to be tenacious. Somebody that crumbles the second somebody says something bad about them is not a tenacious person, right? It gives you tenacity if you can get through those things. It gives you perspective, right? So that you can understand the difference of your life before and after, right? It gives you empathy so that you can understand, there's a difference between sympathy and empathy, right? You're not sympathize with, like, but actually empathize, like, I know how you fucking feel. I know what it's like to be broke as fuck. I know what it's like to have to, share one phone between 2 people or get your shit disconnected or have to fucking scoop water from your pool into your toilet because your fucking utilities get shut off because your parents spent too much, right? Like, to be able to empathize someone is different than just kind of like, oh yeah, well, I know poor people have horrible lives. We learned about it in fucking social studies. Like, there's, like, differences. Like, when you actually overcome hardship and then you become a better person because of it, you get experiences and you get perspective and you become somebody that you wouldn't have been able to. You're forged into a person that couldn't have come out of an environment where everything is just relentlessly positive and sucking you off. Like, there's differences between those kinds of people, like, in my opinion, in my personal opinion, But maybe some people disagree, but kids who faced hardship are more than likely to stay in a shitty situation. Social media isn't based on how fucked up your life. Yeah, no, sure. I'm not saying that like we should throw like everybody moves to Compton when they're like 14 years old and then gets involved in the drug trade to, you know. I'm not saying that. Like the best example that I can think of is I knew a girl in high school who went to Ithaca College, right? I knew this girl, we'll call her, I'm not going to call her anything. I knew this girl who every single time she had a problem with somebody, she would cry about it, she would go to her group of friends, and that group of friends would positively reinforce her. And this girl was ridiculous. She was like the worst kind of human being. Like, in order for her, like, it got to the point where when she was a senior in high school, nothing that she ever did was wrong ever. There's no possible wrong that she could ever do. Because anytime she did something and somebody gave her backlash for it, she could go back to her group of friends and get all the positive reinforcement she needed. She could go back to her parents and get positive reinforcement. Nobody would ever criticize her. Nobody would ever tell her that anything she did was wrong. Nobody would ever try to step on her toes. Everybody was really careful to just make sure that she always felt right. And at the end of the day, like, when she graduated, that girl's a fucking mess. Like, anytime anybody said anything mean about her she had no self-esteem, right? Because self-esteem doesn't come from from people around you telling you that you're good, right? That's not how you get self-esteem. By other people being self-esteem is other people calling you an asshole and you being like, I don't give a fuck, dog. I don't fucking need your opinion. I don't give a fuck what you say about me. I got fucking self-esteem, right? Self-esteem isn't this guy says something bad about me, but I feel okay because I have all my friends saying good things. That's not fucking self-esteem. That just means that you're a normal human being whose dopamine fucking spikes every time you get a friend on AIM sending you a message going like, oh, you go, girl. You didn't do anything wrong. Like, that's a fucking addicted human being who needs positive reinforcement in order to make it through their day, right? It's a totally different thing. Yeah, this girl was a fucking nightmare because of like the relentless, and that's all she did. Her whole life was just about that relentless positive reinforcement. Like that's all she thrived on, and she couldn't handle any kind of adverse scenario, anything that challenged her belief or anything like that. Destiny, can you give a specific example? What would she cry about? Fuck, dude, it was so stupid. I can't even fucking remember. Something like some guy like euthanizing his pet sent her like into tears or some shit, even though the pet was like sick anyway because she thought that it should never be euthanized. She would just cry and make deals. This was the girl whose sister, I made an AIDS joke to another friend at like a fucking play rehearsal once. I was working on sound and shit, and I made a joke to a friend about an AIDS joke, and she overheard it, and she started like crying about like how you can't joke about AIDS because it's insensitive, just stupid shit like this. And then she would legitimately do some things fucked up. Is Stu here? I've got a friend that watches my stream sometimes called Stu. There was a time when this girl was around me and my other friend Stu, and we're pretty small people. I was super scrawny in high school and college, right? 113 pounds, fucking 5'7", a stick. And Stu made some joke about I don't remember. She was talking about one of her fat friends, and she said something like Stu said something about hooking him up with one of her friends or something. And then, she made some rude as fuck remark. She said something to Stu like, oh, don't worry. She would never date a scrawny little stick like you. And this chick was fucking 300 fucking pounds. And then I made a comment where it was like, I mean, I'm pretty sure Stu doesn't want to date a fat cow either, so it's fine. Oh! I didn't even understand at the time how what I said was so wrong. I've told this story before, right? I didn't even understand, but oh my fucking god. She went ballistic. She kicked me out of her house. She said, oh, blah, 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 blah. And then of course, when she ran to her group of friends, everybody was saying, like, oh, well, no, kid, like, he was totally wrong. Like, it's okay if you make jokes, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's fine. I mean, like, shit like that. Anything like that. Like, she would constantly, anything like that, she would constantly fucking go back to her group of friends. She could never do any wrong ever, no matter what happened, and she would always get approval from her friends. Okay. Do you agree that both things are good? You need positive atmospheres and struggles. Yeah, I agree. No, I agree. Positive atmospheres are good. My parents have always loved me. No matter what I do, my parents have always loved me. I've never had to question that, which is good. It's nice that I could go back to that if I ever feel like I need that shit, but... She deserved it? No. In school, you can make fun of guys for being too skinny or girls for being too skinny, but you can't make fun of people for being too fat. That's rude. Destiny, these are just anecdotes from your life. I don't think there's any objective conclusion you can reach from it. I mean, maybe. I mean, I guess just personally speaking, I've known people that have gotten that insane positive reinforcement from everybody and have never been told that they're wrong about anything and have never had anybody tell them that they need to stop and think. Like, I've known people like that, and I've never known those people to be anybody that I would consider, like, that garners respect or worthy of, like, anything that I would ever look up to or anything like that. Like... But, I mean, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to talk about the animal thing real fast, and then...
Hey, buddy.
What's up, buddy?
Not much. So...
I said I would talk
what?
to anybody that disagrees with me to give fair airtime to the other side so that I didn't seem like an echo chamber. And you said that you...
All right.
You said you disagreed about the animal stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't quite heavily disagree with your points on how angry they were, because I didn't keep up to with it too much, so I didn't see the signs of the "you should be murdered" outside of his office and stuff. That was that's a little bit too much, and I agree with you that reaction was way too much.
Then what do we disagree about?
But what I disagree with you is on a lot of the other things you said, like why I can't care about the lions dying in Africa because I don't care about the people dying in Africa. I think that's kind of foolish.
Okay, why?
Why can't I care about two things?
You can. That's why I said if there was all this outrage on social media, people talked more about like genocides and shit and like whatever, like Qatar and Darfur or whatever, all this other fucked up shit that goes on in Africa, right? Like we could Google stories, but none of them make the headlines because nobody cares. If people talked about this shit all the time and then Cecil came up and then Cecil got killed and then people talked about that, like I wouldn't give a fuck. My issue is that nobody gives a fuck about anything that happens in Africa until the lion dies and then people care. Yeah, you can care about more than one issue at one share, but to say like, would you make the statement that people really care about what happens to the people in Africa? Do you really think that that's like something that's on the front of like most Western people's minds?
Absolutely not. But absolutely not.
Do you think that there's like a disproportionate outrage about the Cecil the Lion shit versus other people in Africa maybe?
Yeah, there is. You were right, because the signs outside and they were like defacing his workplace. But another thing you said is the hypocrisy that I didn't really like when you were saying that this is something I was the part that I felt strongly about when you were, because I eat chicken all the time and I'm upset the lions are being murdered, and you say how can you eat meat and be upset that an animal got killed, right? Because that's hypocritical. But I mean, people are upset all the time, like when rainforests are defaced, but why? But they're still eating vegetables.
I mean, that's very true.
I mean, they're both farmed animals and farmed vegetables. They're planted, raised, taken care of, taken down and eaten. Right? Plants and animals, they're both the same. You have a whole corn field, and then you have a whole warehouse full of pigs.
Okay, so can I explain the differences between vegetables that are mass produced and grown versus like the rainforest ecosystem, which necessarily can't be replaced? I feel like vegetables and...
Well, I mean, lions can't be replaced either.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I said that I think that I think that hunting and killing endangered species is wrong. That was never my point, right? Like, I never said that, like, the dentist should go kill all the lions and fuck lions and everything. I just think that it's really crazy that a bunch of people that eat a lot of meat would be so offended and outraged about one lion dying. I just thought that was hypocritical. Like, I've never seen, like... I don't think you can compare, like, vegetables to the rainforest. I guess if you're trying to make... Okay, so actually, wait, let me draw this, because this is actually good. It actually sounded really stupid, but this is a good comparison. So I'm saying that you're trying to compare vegetables to, like, mass-produced, like, animals or whatever, to, like, rainforests and endangered species, right? Is kind of the comparison? Yeah, okay.
Well, because that shit happens all the time, right? Someone will chop down a fucking 500-year-old redwood in California or something, and it'll make headlines.
And I think that the argument, most people care about the rainforest and most people don't care about vegetables because they're easily replaceable. I think it's a legitimate argument to complain about like an endangered lion being hunted versus like mass produce being eaten, and I agree with that, right? But I never said that I never said that we should kill lions or endangered species. Like, I think that's bad, and helping some endangered species is good. So I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Well, what I was getting at was because you said it's hypocritical to be upset about the lions but still eat meat. But
I wasn't necessarily.
My response was.
Well, fuck. I'm drawing other arguments here. I think that people get way too like hyped up into like animal shit. Like that really bothers me. That a bunch of meat eaters would care that much about like a single lion. Like that was kind of the thing that bothered me. I don't think it's bad. I think that you can eat meat and still care about endangered species, right? Like I'm a meat eater, and I think that endangered species to some extent are important to save. Like I don't disagree with that. Like I think that that's a good point. My main issue was never that people were mad that the lion got killed. And I think I've said this a lot. My main issue was never that. My main issue was the level of outcry I thought was ridiculous. Destroying the life of the dentist and caring so much about the lion just didn't make sense to me. It would make sense coming from certain groups of people, and that's where the meat eater thing, like if you were a fucking vegan and you were insanely outraged, like I could understand, or if you were a vegetarian you were insanely, but if you're just like a normal person and like you don't give a fuck about anything happening in Africa anyway, and then like this one endangered lion gets killed when tons of endangered lions are killed all the time, like it just like it struck me wrong. It seems a little bit hypocritical that you would care so much about one lion. Like I think that like preserving endangered species is fine, and you should be angry if that happens. Like I've never been pro killing endangered species. But...
Well, the issue is a lot of the things you said made me kind of feel that you were pro killing endangered species.
You really got that from my impression? You think that I'm for killing endangered?
Not that exactly, but you said when I said things like each species is important to the ecosystem, and you were like, lions aren't important. There's only 40 of them. How are they that important?
I mean, like sometimes I feel like people get a little bit crazy hyped up on that ecosystem shit. Like I fucking can't find the article now, but like there were some scientists that were complaining about how much money we spend trying to save fucking pandas, and that it's a huge waste of fucking money, and that at this point the impact they have on the ecosystem is non-existent anyway, and we've dumped so much money into trying to save worthless fucking shitty pandas that are too fucking stupid to even mate with each other, that money could have gone towards way better preservation projects and shit. Like I don't know how, like, some preservation projects seem really stupid. I mean, others seem, I think in general, like, I don't know, I don't follow the science behind it as much anymore. But the idea that, like, the whole planet will fall into crises if one species goes extinct, I think is, like, a little bit silly. There are, like, plenty of species have gone extinct, and, like, everything doesn't, like, fall into uproar or...
Maybe I was trying to pull points, like, I was trying to make more generalized statements, and you were making more specific to the one lion dying.
Yeah,
because
sure.
when I said things like I said something like a top predator dying out is not okay for the ecosystem. And then you said something along
you're talking about when we argued in chat. Oh, I remember this. Yeah, no, I was mad as fuck when
Predators are different from pandas.
Yeah, I mean, this is something where, like, this is one of those arguments where I don't really know as much of the science behind it, so I really can't have, like, a strong opinion.
Well,
I was just like
biology 101, so I mean, we could really discuss this.
Sure. I was hyped as fuck. No, I was hyped as fuck going into that chat. Me saying that it doesn't matter if lions are fucking killed or not is a pretty ignorant statement. I was mad as fuck when we were arguing about that. I'm not gonna lie. I hate people that get, like, hyper obsessed about animals. Honestly, like, I would be pretty surprised if, like, when any species is going extinct, if it dying out suddenly means that everything is fucked. Like, I don't necessarily think that would happen, but it might. I don't know enough about it to say whether it would or wouldn't. I really don't. So, like, I think I remember I remember our argument in chat. I remember I was mad as fuck when I was that was a cap spam argument, right? I'm pretty sure that was a full on cap spam argument. Yeah, I probably said a few things.
Might have been.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah, sure.
The reason why I said some things like that was because I was in I said I took Bio 101, but I live in California, so a lot of my biology teachers' points were, you know, trying to get us inspired about biology, were referring to California. In California, we killed off all the wolves, right? We came here, we moved here, we tried to put up buildings and stuff, so we killed off all the wolves, and then, like, the ecosystem did begin to fail, like, completely, because without the wolves, they're not killing the grazers, and then the grazers eat all the vegetation, and then shit just goes bad, right?
Yeah, sure.
So that I was trying to compare that to lions, to the lions, and you said that I was over exaggerating or whatever.
I mean, I said that, but I have no backing for that or any research at all. I was just mad as fuck. I can't really defend any of those statements. I really can't. Okay, so. So the outrage against Cecil, I think, was way overblown. But endangered species are probably important, and I would probably trust the scientists' opinions before mine on whether or not they're important to save or not. I mean, we can both agree on that, right?
Yeah, but
Okay.
my disagreement was in the why are you eating meat and upset about lions dying?
Yeah. That just had to do more with like the scale of like how angry people were over the lion dying. Because I find it really hard to believe, like, are lions even endangered?
I believe so.
The African lion faces the threat of extinction by the year 2050. I don't know if that makes it cut, if it like cuts the list or not. I don't actually know.
It makes the cut.
Sea lions are endangered.
That happened here too. I forgot from fishing, overfishing. Where you kill all the big fish and then they end up like you kill all the fish and then the sea lions end up going somewhere else or something. That happened here, and then kelp forest went all crazy and we got shit on.
Oh, yeah, lions aren't even endangered. The decision to list the big cats as threatened, one level below endangered, that hasn't even been done yet. Okay. Well, but regardless, I mean, I still think it's important probably to preserve.
All right, I feel you.
Sure.
We got our points across.
Sure.
All right.
Okay. I love you.
Love you too, big guy.
Okay, have fun. Peace out. All right. Look, see, that was a civil argument, and I know what the argument that we had, and I was heated when I said it, and I said a bunch of dumb things. But even though I said those things, I never banned Burleson from chat. And look, we just had a nice discussion. Nobody got banned. We were all big guys, right? Look at that. Look how nice that was. Okay.